Welcome to Zerothreetwo Conversations, the podcast where we talk to creatives, see how they live, and how they do their work. I'm your host, Carlo Villarica. How's the holidays, folks? It's mid-December. We're just about to head to the holiday grind, and when December 25 hits, at least for me, the goal is gonna be to take a rest. I'm hoping to get all my work stuff done before Christmas, or it's probably not gonna be done, but I'm hoping that most of it will be, so that December 25 to Jan 1 is just gonna be hanging out with the kids, just relaxing, maybe going out on a few bike rides. Before we get to the interview, though, I'd like to talk about an event that I helped out with over the weekend. My dad is part of a Sacred Heart School for Boys back then. Now it's called Ateneo, but back then it was called SHSB, Sacred Heart School for Boys. My dad's batch 72, and their batch, well, they had a teacher. Her name is Evelyn Luab, and then she passed away earlier this year, I believe in Feb 2018. Turns out she's had an impact on so many people, and even to the batchmates of my dad in batch 72. So they decided to launch her book. So a little background: Evelyn Luab was a teacher in Sacred Heart School for Boys and also in STC for a few years, way back when. After she stopped teaching, after she retired from teaching, she became a Sunstar columnist, and I believe she wrote for Sunstar for more than 25 years, once a week, for a column called Light Sunday. So imagine, for 25 years, she had a column in Sunstar. That is, I don't know, probably 1,000 plus articles, right? If you do the math, somebody out there is much more skilled in math than I am. But, so, she wrote a lot. So the class of 72, Sacred Heart School for Boys, class of 72, decided to publish her writings in a book. And then in the process of publishing it, they discovered that so imagine they had to go through, there's thousands of articles, and somebody was going to go through all of that, read through all of that, and decide which ones were good. But turns out that after talking to the family of Evelyn Luab, she already had the beginnings of a book down. Turns out that maybe she obviously thought about it at some point. So fortunately, they had a basis of the book. So we edited, I meant batch 72. So many people were involved, and it would be difficult to name everybody right now. But it's this big, it's just, I'm just going to refer to everybody who did the work as batch 72. And then they put the book together. They published it. So the launch was last week. The book is called Light Sunday by Evelyn R. Luab. And I was just there to help out. Like, we helped them with their Facebook and a little logistics, contacting people. But I didn't know who she was. I didn't read anything until I got the project. But after the event, it made me realize how many people her writing touched, or her writing and her teaching as well. In fact, I don't know, maybe for all you know, some of you know who she was, because as I mentioned, Sunstar wrote a Sunstar column every week for 25 years. She was awarded for her works with the paper. Yeah, so she was awarded the Cebu Archdiocesan Mass Media Award for Best Column Writing in 1998 and Column Writing in English in 2017. I've read a lot of her pieces, and it was a good, fun, light reading, like literally a light Sunday reading. And it was really good to be a part of that. Have you gotten your coffee yet? I need to get my coffee. There's so many good coffee shops in Cebu these days, and up there with the good coffee shops is Degree 9 Coffee. There's a space for commodity coffee and specialty coffee, and you can get both in Degree 9 Coffee. If you're intimidated by specialty coffee and want to ask people about it, head over to Degree 9 Coffee, ask the barista. They can explain to you a little bit. They can explain the roasting process. You know, their cafe in the Gagfa Tower in F. Cabahog Street, Mabolo, Cebu City has a roaster. And every now and then they're roasting beans over there, and you might even catch them one of these days when you head inside their nice, cozy cafe. Personally, I like the cafe for, number one, good coffee, and number two, it's just nice and cozy, and then you can sit in a corner and no one will notice you. You can literally hide. No? Want good coffee? Hit Degree 9 Coffee. Give them a visit. Thank you, Degree 9 Coffee, for sponsoring the podcast. In this episode of 032 Conversations, we talk to Brian Onglatco. If you don't know who he is, Bri is a freelance graphic designer specializing in logo design, branding, and anything print design related. But I know him. Well, I know his work primarily because of his Instagram. I'm gonna put that in the show notes. You should follow him and his many Instagram accounts because he has a lot of really fun drawing work. So like Heathen Humor, I'm Bri. He has a lot of like sketches, like remix of Marvel comic characters or DC comic characters. And he has another project called Melancholy Knot. And he's prolific. Like he releases a lot of his personal art on Instagram and on his Facebook and his website. And at the same time have a fledgling freelance business, his freelance graphic designer thing going. So he's able to balance the two, and sometimes people are surprised with how he does it, so we talk about that. I know him from our time spent in college. We both went to school in Manila. He's a proud Atenean. Right? We talk about how he started. We talk about the tools that he likes to use. The designer versus artist mindset, how we need to value design more, and the nature of freelancing. And we talk about losing clients and getting them back. If you're interested in freelancing, or if you're getting started with creative work and you want to know how to do more freelancing, this might be an interesting episode for you. And if you haven't yet, if this is your first time to listen to the podcast, subscribe to 032 Conversations. I'll tell you a secret. The best way to listen to a podcast is to download a podcast app or just subscribe on Spotify. That's the best way. If you're listening to this on the 032.com website on your computer, I think it would be better suited if you listen to this also while you're stuck in traffic, while that person in front of you cuts you off and you can't move and there's a million cars in front of you, and then you're thinking, oh my God, I'm gonna be in traffic for an hour. Yeah, December, man. There's a lot of traffic in December. And if you're in the car by yourself, there's other people. You can have other people there talking through a podcast. Yeah, that's how I got into podcasts. That's how I started listening to podcasts. And if you're not tired of me yet, you can hear more from me. I publish a newsletter that comes out every Monday. It's called Monday Musings. Head on over to 032.com/Monday. Let's get to the interview with Brian Onglatco.
People should know for the podcast. So we went to college together, no?
Yes.
And you took up legal management?
Yes, I took up legal management with a minor in international business.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And now everyone knows.
So how did you become a graphic designer?
Okay. Basically, before I went to college, when I was still in Sacred Heart, what happened was, I already wanted to be an artist, but I didn't really know what a graphic designer was back then. This was like 1996, 1997, 1999. So back then, there was no such thing as, graphic designer, logo. I mean, we knew, but I don't really know what it was. And the Photoshop wasn't there yet. There was really nothing. So when I was choosing a course, I just knew I wanted to be a fine arts. But wait, aquarelle levels?
Yeah, keep going.
But because my dad, he and my mom, they didn't like the idea of me going to fine arts. And that's true with a lot of Chinese at that time.
Well, it's a lot of parents in general.
Yeah.
It's artist is not something that
Exactly.
they can brag about to their friends.
And then the Chinese is, walay kwarta diha. Or the funnier one was like, why would you go to fine arts in UP? They're all full. Mabayot ra ka dito. Like, all right.
Okay.
so there was a misconception before. So I actually wanted to apply to some UST. Fine arts, but then giblock ko sa akong mom. So, and then everyone was applying in Ateneo, and then ako mga friends sa high school we went to the big three, Ateneo, LaSalle, and UP.
Yeah.
So I remember when we were doing the course, we had to choose the courses. Ateneo was kind enough to lecture us what our courses were. That's actually important. A lot of people did not have that.
Yeah, I didn't have that.
Yeah, you didn't have that.
I do not recall having that at all. They did not explain the courses.
Yeah. Our time na.
Oh, really?
It was really fine, kind of them. And then I remember my first choice was actually management engineering. And then my second choice was legal management, and then management, and then the last one was MECO. But I didn't get management engineering because, I wasn't a big nerd enough. So I wasn't that smart. So yeah, that's how I got into LM. I was actually surprised when I didn't even know what it was. I just thought it sounded cool. And then,
LM.
Yeah, LM. And then, and I actually do remember the guy saying that you have an option to go into law. I actually didn't even know if I wanted to go into law. I just know, okay, lawyers, blah, blah, blah. But,
I've had this conversation before where like, how old are we when we have to choose a course? Like we're like 16 or something?
15 or 16, depends.
15 or 16. So
Yeah.
we have to choose.
Yes.
And then supposedly this choice affects our whole life. Kunohay ba?
Yeah.
And then at 15, 16 years old, when you don't even know who you are, you have to make this life decision. It's such a weird system.
Actually, that's why I'm not surprised that a lot of times people really shift in the middle. Back then I used to like look down on those people. Now, why did you shift? You're just wasting your money of your parents. Later on I realized that, there is a point to that. Okay, there are people who are lucky. I actually consider them lucky that they realize that they want to change. Because that takes a lot of guts to change your course. Unless of course you had to change because you sucked at it. Kinda lies na.
Yeah, that's what happened to me.
Yeah. Wait, you shifted there?
I shifted.
You were management, diba?
I was management at Ateneo.
What
Almost
happened?
flunked out my freshman year.
I didn't know that.
Why? I was under probation second year.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then I barely passed second year. And then I was looking at my grades and I was like, I don't know if management is for me. Okay, maybe I
Wala
did
pa my management subject first year. What the hell?
No, first year. Okay, so first year.
What hit you? Was it math?
No, but what hit me was that in Sacred Heart, I just didn't study.
So yeah.
I just didn't do any. I didn't have to ba.
It
And then
doesn't
all
work
of a sudden, when I got to Ateneo, and there was this one class I flunked it. It was a zoology.
Yeah, not say. Okay.
And then,
that's 5 units, bay. Grabe.
I flunked that class. So I flunked it, So fourth year I had to take it
You had to
again.
take
I was a fourth year student, and then all my classmates were freshmen. No, yeah, yeah. I remember this guy. This guy goes up to me. Hi, my name's Pedro. This is my course. What's your course? And I switched man to European studies.
Yes.
It's like, European studies. Kilala mo ba si ano? No, I'm a fourth year student. And then the guy looks at me. Okay. And then walks away.
You never saw him again.
Well, he was okay. He was fine.
I didn't know that you switched to Euro.
Yeah, but I switched because moto lagi kay I was scared. I would flunk out.
You're like Iyad, man. The same thing, Gerard Padriga. The same thing happened to him. He was my roommate. Nga, LM.
Ah, yeah,
We started out at LM, and then when he was second year, same as you.
Euroman to siya.
He switched second year to Euro.
Yeah, yeah.
I never forgave him for that.
Mo ba? It was okay.
No, because I told him his reasoning at the time was like, lisod daw accounting and math. And then my counter was like, you didn't even try it yet. Why are you shifting? You don't even know yet.
Actually, for me, honestly, in retrospect, I was totally fine with all that. In a second year, I didn't fail.
Because you learn how to adjust na.
Yeah, murag, I just thought it was going to be hard. But I didn't realize nga, I was just really adjusting to college. So I thought, I'm just gonna shift, and then
it'll get easier.
And then I just realized later on, it's the same.
Yeah,
it's
plus which your track did you get? Management?
Management.
Oh,
yeah. And then I was pretty good.
It's the same.
And then I was pretty good at the accounting part. Like my first accounting class, with management pa ko, I had she was a terror teacher.
Was this Ibarra?
Ibarra. I had her.
I had Ibarra. We had LM. We are the children of Ibarra.
Oh, wala. I passed.
Yes. But a lot of people, I remember that they were really scared of accounting.
Yeah.
There was so much hype, but then when I got there, I'm like, okay, it's not really. Here's the thing though, it's like, and it's funny you experienced that, because I learned also in those days na, and I would give this advice to anyone who's going to Ateneo or any college for that matter, but mostly for Ateneo. It's harder to get in than to flunk, because the hardest part is the asset. For me, the whole experience looking back, the hardest thing for me was the asset. Staying there was not that hard as long as you put in the time to at least review imong notes. I mean, I had this habit before, which is actually how I formed my habit of drawing was, I would keep studying at nights. Remember in our dorm, we had a study room.
Yeah, the study room.
Man. So I would take advantage of that. Nobody was there on the weekends. And then, I was too broke to go out on weekends. So I just stayed there on weekends. And then my roommates would make fun of me na I was always studying but didn't get any dean's list. But actually what happened was I was just there studying, reading. And then after I read, I was just drawing the rest of the time.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And then just go out and smoke.
I never went to that room because
there's so many people
during the weekdays, no?
Yes.
And then no way was I studying during the weekend. No, but like
on weekends there's nobody there.
But this is where I got my coffee habit in a way. Okay. So I knew that I couldn't study in the dorm because it's like having your friends over forever.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
As in your friends are there, so
they never leave.
Just so you know, Brian and I went to the same college and then we both stayed in the dorm. In Cervini. And then imagine having a sleepover with your friends
forever
for your whole every day in school, and then motobay. So it was very difficult for me to just focus.
Yeah.
So what I would do was I'd go across and I'd go to the Starbucks, and then actually I'd order a coffee every now and then, but I wouldn't have a coffee at night, and then katoy. So what I used to do was I'd so tihik. Didn't have money in college. So I'd buy a brownie. I think it was like 30 pesos.
Yeah, just stay there.
Yeah, so I'd buy the brownie and then I would just sit on that table by myself.
You had
for
the right
4 or 5 hours.
You had the right.
3 hours later, half the brownie pakang gikaon.
I gotta say, I still do that now sa Coffee Bean. I not the brownie though. Okay, mahal mo ng brownie. I get the water. Okay, it's like $40. So sometimes when I know I'm not gonna, because I already drank my coffee for the day, so
yeah, you can only have one.
Yeah, and so sometimes when I'm in Coffee Bean. Shit, I can't believe I'm saying this out loud. It's like, what I would do, para lang I can stay there. I would just buy water and then just, bahala mo. Yeah, I'm there for the rest of the day.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, same thing before with the Starbucks. But for me though, when back in college, here's the thing though, I've never been to the Starbucks. The one beside Nasho.
Mo ba?
Yeah, not even once. I've never been there.
Really?
Because back then, again, we were broke, di ba? So, akong priorities were different. I'd rather go to Manang Sanit than get a coffee.
Yeah.
Although I would keep passing by that area because I was always in National. So all my funds were in, ball pens, books, comics. So I had different priorities. So that's actually funny. Even when we graduated, when we graduated our batch, that was when I realized I've never been inside that Starbucks other than going with my friends and getting them there and then we'd go drink. Okay, that was always like the meeting point for drinking along the streets of Katipunan. Back then when it was
I'll be honest, I did not drink that much.
We used to drink in this place called IQ. there was, I forgot the name of the building, the one in the middle with the yellow cab. There was a bar there. They had the best sisig.
The one on the second floor.
Yeah, someone
I've been there.
after
Yeah,
IQ.
yeah.
Yeah, they had the best sisig, the crunchy sisig.
That closed though.
That closed, yeah. It became a comic store. So.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, when it closed, the comic store. So that's why I kept going there, because of the comic store. So that was pretty funny.
I don't know, but like me, mostly just played a lot of basketball in Ateneo.
Yeah, different. I was a nerd. I was just in my room. I mean, I tried. I mean, you know, we used to have a pool. Back in our day, we had a pool. So that was my only sports. Mag-swimming lang and it's disgusting.
By the pool, I never went to the pool.
Really? It's disgusting, but it's the only pool we have.
I don't think I've ever swam in that pool. Maybe once lang.
In summer, pool, it was so gross there because you know how the flying termites or anay, diba? They would fly. In Manila, they're bigger. Have you noticed that? The bigger wings, they look like cockroach wings.
Mo ba?
So the pool at night, if you, especially during summer, you cannot see the surface of the pool because it's so full of wings and dead insects.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Have you had that thing where your bulb does all these insects flying around?
Yeah.
You know how to kill them? You know how to kill them?
No.
You put like a bowl of water underneath the light. Because what happens is they think that light is brighter. They will go to it and they will drown.
Oh,
so that's why if you have that at home, and I hope you never have that because they're so annoying, you just put a big bowl, enough for them to drown in.
Oh ba?
Yeah, I had a friend, gigiputang niya plate. Wala, they just chilled in the plate.
Uy, gamit.
I told you, get a bowl. They have to drown in it. So imagine that in a bigger sense, and it's a pool. So the pool at night, they had really bright lights.
Because they had those lights on the side.
Imagine in summer, you can hardly see the surface because there's all these wings and dead insects. And this is a true story. This happened to me when I was swimming. When I started to swim, there was a summer that there was nobody left sa dorm. There was just a few of us left. Okay? It was just the start of summer. Everyone was going home. So we used the pool. When I came in, clear pa siya. When I got out, holy shit, like it's all flying insects. I had insects in places that I had to clean. It was gross. I mean, thank God the pool is no longer there. I mean, that's really sad, but man, that pool was awesome and gross at the same time.
Right. I never went to that pool.
There was I don't know if this isn't true, obviously, but there was always that running joke that water's been there since it got created, that pool. I don't know. I really hope that's not true. But here's the funny part, though. Diba?
I don't feel bad na. Wala ko kaya sa pool.
I told you it's awesome and it's gross. So. But man, we had good times there. And then what's sad now? Diba, the pool is gone. Have you been there? The new Ateneo dorm?
I've seen it, but I haven't gone around.
If you actually go to the new dorm now, where it stands now was the pool.
Oh yeah, that's what they said. Yeah, that's right.
Oh. The last time I was there, I noticed they had the problems with mosquitoes. We never had that before. Sa atong dorm. You remember that? Yeah, you never got bitten. Have you remembered?
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. And then now I keep hearing there are students now who get dengue or whatever. That's from mosquitoes. And then my theory is you took out the pool. You shouldn't have taken out the pool. That's because I'm pretty sure.
That's probably what was killing all.
Yeah, they would light the chlorine, kill them all.
Oh, that's right. That could be it, no?
Yeah, I mean it's hot there. It's gross, so it's like, man, you shouldn't have taken out
the
the pool.
dorm was fun. The dorm was really fun.
It was. The ones now, the problem now is the dorm is, in our time, it was very horizontal. We had per wing, diba? Now, Manggod, it's too vertical. I think they don't have
How many floors
wings.
is it there?
It's like a condo, but I think it's more than, I'm not sure, but I know it's more than 10 floors or something.
Well, it's designed in such a way. There's the nice way, the nice thing about the structure before, it was that it was designed in such a way, once you get out of your room, you can see basically half the dorm.
Yeah.
Because there was a big open space in the middle. And then it made it really feel like a real community.
Yes.
In a way.
Yeah.
Like I know where you live. You live across. Yeah, like across, like literally diagonally from my room.
Yeah. And then I remember the thing I liked there when it rained. It was really nice. Get the water in the middle. And then it was a big deal kung magbaha na, okay, shit. So I remember there was a time na, I think because the drainage was broken, water started coming in. So we were like, man, this is a big deal kung nagbaha na sa atong floor. But now the sad thing now is they don't have that because their structure now is vertical na siya eh. It's like a high-rise condo now. It looks like that. It feels like that. So I guess they're still close, but I'm pretty sure now it's like per floor, not per per batch or per wing. I don't know. I haven't really been in there, but that's what I take from it. Because if you talk to the fresh grads, the ones who newly graduated, in our time, our camaraderie, so to speak, was better. Now it's
so?
like, I mean, we must expansive ta. Okay, we actually were closer to the older batches and our own batch. But the younger ones, the one who are now in the newer ones, what I've noticed, it's like murag kanya-kanya na. Although I could be wrong. But that's what I miss about it, the old dorm.
I don't know, by me, kay, when I was there,
Mm.
murag, I'm not really the sociable type.
Yeah.
Like, but I would know you because like you'd play basketball, kanang nga ba? And then I'd see you in the court, and then I notice even now I really don't go out of my way.
Yeah.
To
Neither did we. But that's the thing. There was that. But I think our wing, we were really close to each other, our wing, because the funny part of our batch was like, we used to be 2 floors. And then the ground floor used to be,
yeah.
But then they a lot of people got eliminated. They
started flunking.
Started flunking and getting kicked out because of Counter-Strike. In our time, it was Counter-Strike. So, I mean, because of that, a lot of people got kicked out. So what happened was they moved up.
Yeah.
So we became more compact. And then, of course, there are some people they have their own little worlds, some rooms. But then a majority, siguro half of the rooms in our batch, we were really close to each other. So even until now, I mean, there's that sense that even if we see each other like this, we always reminisce back in those days, the old days. Even with the girls, the Eliazos.
Yeah, the girls lang, the way theirs was designed was kinda like, they didn't have that communal middle area.
Yeah, theirs sucks.
Lagi.
Init.
Well, yeah, that's what I heard. Wait, so going back. So you took up legal management.
Yes.
You didn't want to take at first you didn't want to take legal management, but you were kind of forced to do it.
Yeah.
You had no idea why you even wanted to take it or why you took it or what you were going to do after.
Yeah.
And then
okay. So what happened was in second year I got my own computer. And then what happened was, I started dabbling into Photoshop without knowing what it is. I just knew that it was because I joined all these organizations in the dorm, the marketing promotions. So we started, we were delving into we had, remember the concerts back then, the parties.
So you'd make the posters?
I started making them in third year. In second year, I was learning how they made it. And the cool part there was like, I forgot the artist who made it at that time. But I studied what he did. I actually was drawing some of the assets and then he would put it in the poster. I don't have it here anymore. But I learned it from there and then I liked it so much that I started teaching myself Photoshop. To the point that people would go out and drink. I'll be the loser back in the room figuring out
And this is what, 2003, 2004?
Yeah, 2003. 2003, this was the advent of Adobe Photoshop 7. So when we became fourth year, that was CS na. For those who don't know, Adobe Photoshop 7, this is like, kung Windows pa ni, this is like Windows 98. So that was like the most stable version of it at the time. So that was what I was learning. The ones now, the CS, the Creative Suite, was their 10th year anniversary. This came out when we were in fourth year. When I was in fourth year, 2004. But either way, the program is still the same. So I was learning it. And then when third year came along, our batch was in charge of marketing and posters. That's when I really delved into it. And then we started having reports, management. You have a lot of reports. We had to do a lot of, visual stuff. So I was always the guy who was making the PowerPoint presentations. But because I was doing PowerPoint, it was also kind of like graphic design also. But at the same time, I was making assets through Photoshop. And then I even had some sidelines here and there for posters and stuff. But even back then, it was really a struggle to learn. It really sucked. I remember even the most basic things I had a hard time doing.
I think like there was no YouTube back then.
No, none.
Yeah.
There was no, and even back then, there was no such thing as i-Google na lang na. There was no way. There was no tutorial. I actually, if I had a time machine, I would tell myself, dude, Google it. Because back then, there was nothing. You had to learn everything on your own. And, by the time we graduated, when I graduated fourth year, I actually gave up on it. But but at the same time, I was still drawing. That's why I had the Hidden Humor. I was publishing at the time.
Because that Heathen Humor, that one came out when you were in college.
Yes,
right?
it was drawn. Sorry, the parallel akong journey as a designer and the artist, because when Hidden Humor was born in 2002 in our theology class, and I still know that because I still have the notes there, where the first drawings came out. When I was learning Photoshop back then, I didn't really know that you could illustrate using the computer, the digital art. It was still a foreign thing for me, and I couldn't afford there was no Wacom at the time. So you had to do it by the mouse. What I did was I learned how to animate them using PowerPoint. I actually had a few episodes of animating those using Photoshop and PowerPoint. So when in fourth year, I had a couple of friends, they wanted their management, the thesis. Remember the project you had to execute a project?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, theirs was Hidden Humor, the book one. Oh
yeah, wait, just to so Heathen Humor is the first book that you published.
Yes, it was, but back then it was called JC and DD because it was Jesus Christ, and this is because of John Algar. Jesus Christ and the devil. That's why it's devil. I know. That's because of John Algar, not me. And actually, the funny part there is like, Daredevil, diba? If you actually read it, it's actually the Red Evil. So that was a running joke by John Algar. And then when I drew Damien, the character, it was like, okay, he's a little red evil. So I used to call him DD. So it was JC and DD. But the book was actually JC and DD's Hidden Humor. It was later on that I dropped the JC and DD because nobody got the joke. So, yeah. And then when fourth year, when we published the first book, and then I forgot about it. I didn't really think about it. At the time, the book was, for me, as an artist, it was such a big deal for me. Although, if you ask me right now, I can't stand opening that book because it was so bad. Not the humor, not the content. The content is good. It's funny. It's just that every visual bad habit of an artist is there for me. Different fonts, the resolution is wrong, the sizing, the pacing, everything is wrong about that book. But only because at the time, that was the technology available. So for me, I still keep this book like it's a raw love-hate relationship. I loved it for what it represents, but I really hate it how it looks like.
Well, a lot of artists don't like looking at their very early work.
But this one, and I'm sorry for everyone who ever bought this book, but I hated it at the time.
Even at the time,
I hated it. I mean, but I loved it. At the same time, parang I knew it could be better. But because the limitations because what happened there was my friends, they funded it, but I had to be the one to lay it out. Because for one reason or another, the printers back then they didn't know what it was. So I had to be the one I had to learn really fast how to make a book using Photoshop, and I think it was InDesign. I don't really remember. No, Photoshop. It was just Photoshop. So I had to learn really fast how to do everything. That's why if you ever had the chance to pick up that book, like all the fonts it's like different fonts. The spacing of each line is wrong. There are some misspellings. The order is wrong. So, but yeah, I mean, when it printed, I remember I loved it. And then after graduating, I forgot about the book. And what happened was I joined a company called HCG. HCG is Hocheng, Philippines. They're the ones who do bathroom fixtures, toilets, lavatories.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So if you're ever in the mall or you're in the condo, if you go to the CR and then you see the letters HCG, that's where I used to work before. My dad, we were a distributor of them before. So I asked the Manila office if I could work for them. At the time, as a marketing assistant. Because when I graduated, I knew that it would be hard to get a job as a graphic designer, because at the time I thought, you know what, I'm not a fine arts graduate. There's no way anyone's gonna hire me. So I thought, okay, so I'll just go into marketing. I didn't want to work in Cebu because I really wanted to go back to Manila because all the friends were there. So HCG was kind enough to hire me. And what happened was when I went there, so I was meeting the marketing team. There was no marketing team. It was just me. And then we had a marketing manager. And then I remember going inside the creatives room, because for every big company, there's always the creatives room. There's always the in-house. If they have an in-house creatives, they have the room. And then when I remember opening the door, and there was this one guy, my art director at the time, Dennis Reyes. And it was just him and three empty computers. And then he said, and then I told him I was interested in all these. And what happened was he was happy to know that I was interested, because he was having a hard time recruiting someone. And that's how he trained me. This guy, Dennis Reyes, I owe him everything. He was, at the time, he was 30 years old. I was 19. He taught me everything he knew. He taught me Photoshop and he taught me Macromedia freehand at the time.
This after you graduated?
This is my first job.
Okay.
May of 2004. So, first day pa lang na ako, I resigned sa akong marketing post and went graphic design, which was still marketing. So, it was funny because for a while, when somebody asked my job, I would put management trainee / graphic designer. So, this guy trained me from the ground up to, and it was actually funny because this guy, Dennis, he's one of the kindest, most honest persons I know. But man, he had a mouth, like he would keep cursing every 5 minutes. And then, you can bleep this out, but he would talk like this. Pare putang ina tong mga gago, hindi nila lang para to gagawin, mga putang ina talaga. So, he was putting this F-bomb. And then, he imagine he was this short white guy with really long hair. And then he was into judo, he was into candlesticks and everything.
Oh,
you don't mess with this guy.
He's one of those.
Yeah, I learned very early on how to be a humble artist because I would admit at that time I had an attitude problem when I graduated because Ateneo and all that. We had all these we had this swagger before. So I learned very early on that I had to be humble because this guy would not take shit from anyone. So which is funny because of him, this is how I teach people. Like I'm kind of mean, I'm brutally honest. I actually get it from him. But in the end, he turned me into a competent designer, because everything he knew, Photoshop, it was amazing how he taught me. Because what you have to remember about designers as they get older, especially in that time, and especially in Manila, and I'm sorry if anyone gets offended, people who are older do not really teach the younger generation, or if they do, they don't teach them a lot. I actually remember a teacher in UP here in Cebu. I forgot his name. He died actually. I remember somebody asked him like, do you teach your students everything? And his answer was no, and then the guy asked why, and he said, because I don't want them to become competitors. So that was the prevalent, the prevalent thinking of artists at that age, at that time. Even now in Manila, if you the old guard or even the ones who are a bit older than me, they're probably not that open to teaching.
That's a scarcity mindset.
Yes.
Kinda like it's a mindset nga there's not enough space in this boat.
Yes, exactly.
And then I'm not gonna make space for you.
Yeah. Which I find, honestly, if I didn't meet Dennis, I would have had that same mindset. But it was because of him that I learned that, you know what, I can teach anyone Photoshop if they want. I mean, right now, even now, I mean, I teach Photoshop. If everyone wants to learn Illustrator, I do it. No hesitation. Of course, make sure they go busy. And my thinking there is, I don't have a problem teaching you the technical aspects of graphic design. No problem, the program and everything. Because for me, that's the most important part of being a designer. This is what I learned from Dennis. Learn everything you can about the program. Make it as if you know the back of your hand. So I can honestly say that if I had Photoshop, I can use Photoshop without a mouse. Ingan ako ka proficient with it. So if I can use Photoshop with only my left hand, meaning a keyboard lang. So because that's how much I know the program, I can do it even if I actually tried this once. I was in Hong Kong. I found there was a computer with Photoshop in the middle of this mall. So for the hell of it, you know what? Let's see if I can use Photoshop when it's Chinese. and I know I'm Chinese. I can't read Chinese. And then I realized that because I know it so well, I can even use it in a different language. So every once in a while, I would mess with people. I would change my settings of my computer to French or whatever, and I can still use it. And that's the takeaway I had from it. Like you need to learn your software 100%, because when you get that out of the way, designing becomes easy. Because if you keep thinking, if you're that artist or designer that's always trying to figure out how to do this, how to do that, it limits what you do. So, and you're wasting so much time figuring it out. So, I'm thankful for that for Dennis. He taught me that how to learn it. And then we actually had a because, in my 6 month there in HCG, we had another designer who came in, si Mel. And then this guy taught me all the shortcuts in Photoshop. We had this game before that you don't look at what the guy is doing with his hands. You just look at the screen, replicate what he did, and all he did is in the keyboard. So we had this game before, like he would show me tak tak tak, tak, and then I had to figure it out what he did using the same keyboard. So that was what I learned there from HCG.
So that's true. You're basically saying master the tool.
Yeah, master the tool.
Because there's a gap between executing what you have in your head and
doing it
and actually doing it. Like so there's that gap, and when you master the tool, whatever it is, then that gap becomes smaller and smaller. And that way you can instinctively, whatever you picture in your brain, that's what you can pull out on.
Because there's this argument that, you should use the latest software. Honestly, and this is why I mentioned Photoshop 7. I can still do what I do now, even if it's Photoshop 7. Because the tools of Photoshop haven't really changed since 13 years ago. The only thing that's changed has been the back end. It's more photographer oriented. But the back end of the design oriented part, it's already been the same since God knows when in Photoshop 7. So if you learn that, I mean, it's not really important. Well, it's nice to get the latest version, especially if you're like me, you always have the latest Mac. You need to get the latest one so that there are no more bugs. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't make you a better designer. It makes you a faster designer, probably, because Adobe is making everything easier. What used to take like 3 to 4 clicks now takes only 1 click. So that's what Adobe is doing. They're simplifying their program. Now for people like me, the older generation, we hate that. Like, I don't want that. I want to do this my way, you know? So that's always been my annoyance at the newer ones. But yeah, I mean, even now, like, when somebody asks if they want to learn it, I can teach you the program and no problem. I mean, I can teach that whatever you want to learn. But the thing is, I cannot teach you how to design. That's all on you na. The eye, the execution, the principles behind it. I mean, yeah, you can learn that in school, but at the end of the day, that's really up to you.
Yeah, that's where your artistry comes in already.
Yeah, because an example for that is there's a thing called the Adobe Certified Instructors. They are licensed by Adobe to teach.
Okay.
So they spend hundreds of thousands of pesos every year to get that certification. But the thing is, they can teach you all these neat tricks, everything there is to know. But if you actually look at what they do, well, not all of them, but some of them, it's like they're not really impressive when it comes to design. They just know the program. So there's that disparity about it. Even though you know the program, it doesn't mean you're going to be a
good designer.
Yeah. So you need to learn that early on. So with Dennis, I guess for me, I've been doing this. It's 2018. That was 2014. So 14 years. I actually spent the first 4 years of working trying to improve my skills. It didn't happen overnight because what Dennis taught me at that time, up until before I joined Campaign Cebu in 2008, I was floating around different companies in Cebu. They sucked. The companies were terrible. What I did at that time was I kept improving myself. And one of the things I did, and I would advise these to designers also, is I learned, aside from Photoshop, I learned how to be a good Apple user because I'm a Mac user. So another problem of people is they don't know maintenance for Windows or for Apple. They don't really know how to install or what else, basic stuff like that. So in
just
the next
basic computer stuff,
yes,
like just maintaining the computer.
Yeah. So but at that time, wala pa kayo to yung mga Apple users sa Cebu. It was still very few of them at the time. So I had no one to teach me these things. So I had to teach myself how to do it. I taught myself how to pirate apps. I taught myself how to troubleshoot.
I didn't think that was the first thing you were going to say.
No, that's the first thing I actually learned. That's actually because nobody was selling. If you were in Manila, you're lucky because there was a store in Green Hills do not use pirated apps. We're talking 2004, back in the day. Because back in the day, there was no way you could get all these original apps and games. You had to buy them in Green Hills or Makati Cinema Square. But when you're in Cebu, wala way. There was nothing in Cebu.
It was difficult and not to mention really expensive.
Well, the original one, no one was selling here because there was no Apple Store here yet.
Amo ba?
Even when iStore opened here back in the day.
I realized I'm trying to think. I was trying to think. How are you sure there's no original one? And I was thinking about it. I'm pretty sure all of our software before was pirated.
There was a time we were a pirate cove. Mga pirates na tanan. I mean, I still have them, but I still have like I still have this whole CDs from Green Hills like rotting away. But man, those were the days. Tracking down apps and everything, and then make sure and I crack. And then if it doesn't work, you have to go back to the manong. It's no longer there.
Yeah, I think what happened was that, which is funny because katong back in the day, I would have thought nga, well, nobody's gonna pay for anything anymore,
Yeah.
but it turns out, especially these days,
Yeah.
if you just make it easy to buy,
Yeah.
then less people will pirate,
Yeah.
diba?
That's a well, yeah, let me talk about that for a bit, because like now I stopped using pirated software into 2013. I use now Photoshop Creative CC, the Creative Cloud of Photoshop. For those who don't know, what happened was Photoshop used to be Photoshop, Illustrator, all those apps. You had to buy it. Buy once, use forever. The problem is, when they upgrade, you have to buy the next generation and the next and the next and the next. And they always cost like 100,000 or 50,000 at least.
Are you sure? Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
One whole suite, the whole creative suite before used to
Oh.
cost like 200,000 pesos. And I have two here. So in 2013 or 2012, I forgot which year, Adobe started to create the subscription model, wherein instead of buying once for $1,000, you just pay $50. So 2,000 pesos.
Monthly
Or
fee.
at the time, once per month, 2,000 pesos a month. And then you get all the apps. So that's pretty cheap. And then people don't know that you can actually use that in two computers when you get Creative Cloud for your computer. Because the thinking of Adobe is, one of the apps you're going to install in your work computer, the other one is in your home computer. That's why you get two licenses. So at the time when it came out, I was against it because I didn't want to keep paying every month.
I actually think I remember seeing a tweet or a status message.
Yeah, that I was complaining
like
about
you were
it.
complaining about
Yeah.
it. Come to think of it, I vaguely remember.
Yeah, I used to rant a lot. No, because at the time, it was really stupid. I mean, for me, at the time, because there was no way I could afford paying 2,000 a month. So, well, I could, but I didn't want to. I was
Yeah.
busy drinking. This was my 20s. So, I would rather use that 2,000 a month. Ay, inom na lang ko. But then, when I hit 2013, I realized, I did the math. And then that was the time also I was starting to pick up my freelance. And then I realized, you know what? Why am I still doing pirated? Maybe I should just invest in this. Because I actually noticed at that time, what's happening was, although I was using the latest pirated app, there was always something wrong with it. And then when Adobe would fix it, there's no way you can get it until somebody cracks it.
Yeah.
So there was that waiting game. But
hassle sa kayo.
hassle kayo. Yeah. And then in between, you lose money. Because I actually had a client, one of my biggest blunders was, we made a menu and then we had to print it. It was approved and printing na. I didn't know that there was a bug in that program that when it printed sa final, one whole page did not show up because of there was this feature, the overprinting. I forgot to turn it off. Or actually I did, but because the app was pirated, it turned it off or something like that. So what happened was he printed like 100 menu and there's one page missing. So I actually paid for that. I had to pay for that mistake. And then when I looked at it, I was like, what happened? Was it my mistake or was it the printer? Actually, the printer was also to blame. Kaya also dyan check ang printing, but whatever. So it was there that I realized, you know what? This is getting bad. I think Adobe got smart and started putting bugs sa mga pirated.
Yeah.
So, although they keep denying it, I think it's true. But, so, when that happened, I started using it na pirated, the real thing na, although it hurt for a while, because that's still 2,000 pesos. And then, if mo change ang exchange rate,
Yeah, mo
that's
dako.
dako pa yun, 2.5. So now it's actually around
been
2.6.
going up.
Yeah, it's been going up. So it hurts. But now, actually, for those who are interested, there is an option sa Adobe nga dili na siya $50 to $60. They have this thing called the photography plan, and it's $10. You
That's
get Photoshop.
I do that.
You do that?
Well, I do. Yeah, I do. I get
Yeah.
Photoshop and Lightroom.
Yes, so that's the one I get now. So that's it's only 600 a month, something like that.
Yeah, it's super
Convenient.
I honestly don't know how much I pay.
Did you know? Yeah, but so now you know you can install it in another computer. You can do it twice.
Oh yeah, I mean I don't.
Yeah.
I only have one computer.
Yeah,
Fine.
but install it for if ever you have a team. But yeah, so I did that, and then when I was using the whole suite for a while, I was paying $2.5 a month. I realized, why am I paying so much when I'm only using 2 apps? So I mainly use Photoshop and Illustrator. So Photoshop for editing posters, big printing. Illustrator is for logo and branding. So I changed my plan from the whole suite to just Photoshop, photographer plan, and just single app 800 pesos for Illustrator, plus 600 pesos for the. So yeah, it's like 1.4 a month. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So I keep convincing my other graphic designer friends who are freelancers to do the same, but they still think that it's expensive. So I said, if you can't spare, okay, assuming you don't use Illustrator, 500 pesos lang. If you cannot spare 500 pesos a month, you're doing something wrong sa imong career. So that's 500 pesos. Sharon naman said, wala kay 500.
Yeah, and then, that's like if you think about it, it's really cheap if that's your overhead. If that's your only overhead.
Yeah, it's cheap.
It's super cheap.
Yeah, and then, but I don't know. I mean, well, there was one that I tried to convince him, and then the real problem was wala siya credit card. So I'm like, all right, sige, that's a different problem. I can't help you with that.
So you worked in HCG, and then you moved to Campaign Cebu at some point.
No. Yeah. I worked in HCG for 1 year, and then I came back to Cebu, and then I worked for export company for 1 year. So irrelevant na siya. And then I worked for another year in another advertising company, irrelevant also. Before I finally got pirated to Campaign Cebu, or at the time they were called Camp Cebu. So that's why I keep calling it Camp, even though they eventually became Camp Cebu, and then now they're known as Gray Cebu. So
that's Gray
Cebu, yes,
okay.
because Camp was owned by Campaigns in Gray Manila, and then right after I stayed there for 4 to 5 years, 4 years. Right after I left, they were absorbed by by Manila, who in turn was absorbed by Gray Worldwide. So that's why they became Gray Cebu. Now, for me, it was significant. My stay in Camp Cebu was significant because that's where I grew as a designer. Now, I don't say artist, and here's the thing that people need to understand. So when you look at our creative field, there are graphic artists and then there are graphic designers. People think they're the same thing, and they are to some extent. But me, I always draw the line. You're either a designer or an artist. And what does that mean? First of all, you need to define what actually is an artist. And for you to define what an artist is, you have to define what art is, which is, it will take us 24 years to complete that. The only thing you need to know is that art is really an expression of something subjective. So your expression can be a drawing, a song, or whatever. That's the expression of how you perceive the world, what you're feeling. That's really what art is. The artist is the guy who does that.
Yeah.
So the designer, on the other hand, works for a client and is designing something. So I always use an example. If I were to ask an artist to draw me red.
Sorry?
Draw me red. The artist would go, show me red. Ano na lang, show me red. Or show me red. The artist would show me blue. And then I would ask, why is it blue? Oh, because the inner feeling of passion is red. Bullshit. Yes, so that's not what the artist does. I'm not saying I'm not putting down the artist. I'm just saying that's what an artist is. So, but then if you ask the designer, draw me red, the designer would say, what for? Who is it for? What are we doing? What is the message? So that's what the graphic designer is. The graphic artists are actually artists who use the medium of graphics, which is digital medium. So in effect, it's not really graphic artists. It's more like digital artists. So it's an archaic term, graphic artist. So that's why when you look, if you're planning to look for a job, if you're a designer, you're starting out, and then you can either type in graphic artist or you can type in graphic designer. It's the same thing that most companies think. But for me, I strictly draw the line. If you're a graphic artist, and if you say that wholeheartedly, like you stomp your foot and I'm a graphic artist. For me, you're a guy who just make exhibits arts.
Who creates art.
Using graphic design, using graphic programs like Photoshop and whatever. Now, if you tell me you're a graphic designer, then to me, you are a brand specialist or a design specialist. You design stuff for clients. You have a client, you have a message, yeah.
I like to think, I usually think of like graphic designers as basically problem solvers.
We solve it visually.
Yes. And then a graphic artist these are
Stoners joke.
well. No, I like your definition. What was that? Like it's
They're artists who use the medium of digital.
no, but like for subjective.
There's everything is subjective to graphic
Yeah.
artists. That is to say, all graphic designers are graphic artists, but not all graphic artists can be designers. And that's where, for me, and people who know me would probably roll their eyes because I start talking about this. That's where I have a problem with a lot of, not the younger people, but most designers I encounter here. Because, I took the time to research about this. I took the time. I actually wanted to write about this, but never did. So that's why I have this understanding about it. A lot of people here in Cebu, there are a lot of good designers now. And it's really nice to see that. Like, because I remember when I was starting out, it was so rare to see someone with a Mac or with a laptop even, diba? And then now you can find it everywhere. I went to San Carlos for a talk and then I saw these students, they have MacBook Pros. I'm like, wow. So kids today have this advantage of, they have more tools, more better than ever. But unfortunately, ilang mentalities are still graphic artists. And what do I mean by that? It's like, when you're a designer, you are at the mercy of your client. Not really at the mercy. You are in service of your client. You have a deadline. You have to have professionalism and work ethics to design stuff. And then you need to know that you're not doing this for yourself. You are doing this for the client. An artist, the graphic artist, or an artist for that matter, they just do it for themselves. You see what I mean? So, graphic artists or an artist, so to speak, if I ask them to do something, you have to wait nga they're in the mood. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
Diba? So, it's not a bad thing, but in the professional world, that's a bad thing.
I feel like, there's nothing wrong with being a graphic artist.
Yeah.
But you cannot be a graphic artist when you're doing work for someone else.
Yes.
Because when you're doing work for someone else, automatically, you are trying to serve their vision.
Yes.
No?
Yeah. So, for that, my main problem always with them is like, there's no time management. When they feel like it. So they have to get over that. And then, most designers, I would say, you really start out as that. So I mentioned a while ago na when I started working, I was such a brat. I was such an asshole. I was such a dick. And then I had to get rid of all that. So, I mean, I'm not saying all of them are like that. It's just that, and then people keep complaining right now, millennials are like this, millennials are like that. I'm like, not really. That behavior's always been there. Now, when they start out, there's this sense of, they're still kids learning, baba. So, and then, I mean, right now, there are a lot of good designers. I've seen them, I met them, and it's really heartening. I mean, I've been doing this for 14 years. If you had told me 10 years ago that right now there would be a lot more, I don't see them as competition. I see them as a lot more co-designers. I would have laughed at you. I wouldn't have believed it because Cebu, it's still growing as a industry. Because the problem with Cebu is like a lot of clients here, they don't value design and graphic design as high as Manila does. So I feel bad for a lot of starting designers. They get discouraged when they start working because they're not making as much as their peers in Manila. So
yeah, you just reminded me. I'm going to do my best not to say any names.
Yeah.
So like there is how do I
don't say the
this?
names.
There is a very famous thing that happens every year here in Cebu, and then it's surprising. There's so many talented people here, but instead of getting somebody to do the graphic design, somebody competent, somebody who does it for a living, no. Never mind. Sige, for all I know, they got somebody competent. I don't know, but like they got somebody ng more, sige, I'll do it lang, kaya ni, and then they'll make it, and then it's something that happens that kind of represents our whole culture and island and city. And then there's nothing being, and then they got like a part-timer because it's cheaper. I mean,
muna ang problem sa Cebu. They don't value it. And then they just regret it afterwards. So,
they
yeah, and then they bitch about it afterwards, diba? So,
like bakya kayo, whatever.
So yeah,
no.
that's the problem with Murabitog. It's like which came first, the chicken or the egg? Was it the bad artist or the bad client? So it's just feeding into itself. And I'm lucky that I'm like, okay, sige, let me continue na lang my story. So I started in Camp Cebu. No, it's okay. I started in Camp Cebu. So I was there for 5 years, and then I developed myself as an art director. So I learned to transition from a graphic designer to an art director. And what is the difference? So this is how I understand it. People might think it's different or whatever. When you're in advertising or in any studio, you start out as the graphic designer or the visualizer. Your next step is to become an art director. The art director is basically, as Dennis put it, pare, tangina, ano lang yan pare, parang another term lang yan for sa graphic design. He said it like that. Parang fancy term lang yan. Ako tangina, artist pa rin ako. Kasi he was my art director. And then I was asking him, parang, Dennis, I want to be like you, art director. I was like, putang ina. Ano lang yan? Parang just fancy term lang yan. It's like, alright, you just devalued my goal in life, but okay, so. So apparently, according to him, an art director is just an older graphic artist. So that's actually true, but it's funny. Like, okay, and that reminds me, when I was in Camp Cebu, for the longest time, my position there was associate art director. I was not the art director. I had someone above me. So I would always call myself in short ASS.art director. So I was the ass art director. Okay. But the next step of that, so the art director, you basically command your visualizers under you. So it's in the name, your art direction. You basically tell them what to do, but you yourself can also do what they do. Now, the next step to that is the creative director who commands the group of art directors. So agencies have a lot of, kung company pa na, ang general manager, kumbaga, is the creative director. The supervisor is the art director. And then the peons are the designers and the visualizers. So when I was in camp, I learned how to be a leader in terms of being a creative leader, graphic design, and it was so hard because I had no patience for teaching people, even though I swore that I would pass on what I learned. But man, it was so hard to.
It doesn't come natural to you.
No, it's not that. I can teach. I mean, I'm such a blabbermouth or whatever. I always teach someone. The problem is there was no loyalty back then. So I would teach. I had this thing before where if I can teach you everything you need to know in the company, I always teach them Photoshop. It will only take me 2 to 3 days to teach someone with an artistic background to be a competent layout artist by the time I'm done with you in 3 days. But that's 3 full days. What happened was every time I did that, mo resign after like 2 to 3 months because they got pirated or no loyalty. There was this one guy nga ni-leave siya, kinagbaha yung balay. After na, nalapsan niya yung wife. After na, nasunog yung balay. And then after na, na-flood yung balay. And I was like, na-flood mo ka? Nasunog mo ka? Ano na-flood man? So,
he just didn't show up.
Yeah, just didn't show up. So
why don't they just quit?
People,
okay, anyway,
there are people like that. I don't really know. That's the thing I noticed in Cebu when it comes to artists, but there's no sense of professionalism with them. The concept of 30-day turnover, wala kayo diri. So I had to learn that in Manila. So I'm very thankful for that. I think if I started here, I would be a different designer than who I am now. And I'm not saying it's because people here are bad. It's just really the culture here in Cebu.
Well, I think also because in many ways, Manila, they've done a lot of things first.
Yes.
So like in the beginning, it's very likely that they were
probably
also like that. And then they realized, oh wait, murag, kanang it's learning ba?
Yeah.
So companies and organizations also have a learning curve. And then there's just a lot more companies and organizations in Manila.
Yeah.
And then here in Cebu, the companies and organizations are so young that a lot
not
of
young.
times...
I think the problem here is like it's the old family setup. It's like
maybe, yeah.
Like sa Manila, there's a lot of bureaucracies involved. So there's a lot of managers in between. There's a lot of you don't even actually see the CEO. But in Cebu, most of the time, ang CEO is the dad of the owner or the owner himself. So there's no barrier in between. So the culture is more personal. I guess that's what I've observed
maybe
here.
that's true. Yeah. Well, of course, it's definitely smaller companies here compared to Manila.
So and then I don't know, maybe Maybe it's because of our Ateneo training that we are more professional.
I don't know.
Wink, I don't know. So
I
don't know. I had to go there. I had to go there.
To go there.
I just had to go there. No, because okay, here's the thing. I know that because when we were graduating, this is so gross. I had to. I actually attended the HR talks. So how to sit through an interview, how to know. So I learned all. Yeah, I was lucky enough to learn that. But then looking back at it now, I was like, yeah, that's so gross. So yeah, even we were taught. I mean, I was taught now when you go to an interview, you should wear polo and long sleeve and wear a tie, blah blah blah. And then what to do with your CV, how to write your resume properly. Ano yan lang ba? In my 5 years of Camp Cebu, and my office mates will know this, I saw every single bad habit of a resume. Ba? There was one that it was literally a toilet paper when the guy gave it. Kanabitong grabe na kayo siya kakumot.
Amo ba?
Nga, pagkita na ko, murag lami kay labay. And then the funny part was, after the interview, gipangayo pagid niya balik. So like, what? Just print
This is
yun.
only,
Yeah.
this is only resume, right?
Yeah, and then, grabe, may kunot na kayo siya, ba? Grabe. And then there was that famous one that, I love telling the story. The funniest resume I've ever had was like, I shouldn't mention this. Anyway, he was an art director for one of the newspapers here in Cebu. And then when you look at Sayang resume, it was like full on guy, like, had a family and everything.
Okay.
When it came for the time for the interview, I was waiting for the guy. Me and my copywriter at the time, si Jules, we were waiting.
Yeah,
like,
Jules, I love Jules.
yeah,
man.
Jules, yeah,
Jules
yeah,
Cabigon.
you know Jules. Okay,
Shout
so
out to Jules.
Jules was, shout out to Jules Cabigon, the most brilliant creatives I know. So, kato nga time, I was like, asa naman niya atong interview? And then, when I looked at the waiting area, there was this, I thought it was a girl, but it was a big girl. So, full on girl. So I asked, I forgot who was the secretary at the time, like, asa na ang interview? And it turns out it was that girl. Because the guy was a girl. So I said, okay, Jules, you got this. I'm not doing this. I can't do this. and so it was funny, like, after the interview, it's like, I was like, that was really him. So yeah, man, that was insane. And then, well, sayang, we didn't get him, but man, I mean, when you look at his resume, come on, ibutang na lang imong tinuod na picture. So, yeah. But
well, I can't imagine what they can. If you're like what was it? I'm sure there's a term there, like trans.
I think it was not transgender, transsexual, I guess.
Yeah, but like a kind of cross dresser, kind of. I'm sure they go through their own.
Yeah. Here's
biases.
this one. I remember Jules asked this, like, because we had a standard question. How do you deal with rejection? And then the guy just pointed himself from head to toe. How do you handle rejection? He just did that. Like, he just pointed at himself. So like, all right, you're good at rejection. But yeah, and then there was also one, like, the guy applied, and then he was an information technology graduate. So he applied as a designer. So when you applied in camp, after you get through the interview with me, if I think you're worthy enough, then fine. You can work on the computer. We give you a file, a set of stuff to do, to see if you can do it. So this guy was sitting down on the computer. So he has 1 hour. And then I was doing something else. And then he wasn't doing anything in like 30 minutes. Wala ka pa siya gibuhat. So I approached him. Dude, what are you doing? Humana ka? And siya, sir, I don't know how to turn, dilad ako on ang computer. And I got really mad. I'm like, you're a computer science graduate. Di ka ba lumon? Like, there's a power button. It literally says power button.
No way.
Yeah, he never bothered to ask anyone. He didn't even bother to check.
There.
Yeah, I just sat there. And then I remember telling him, "Bay, just go na lang." Because that was really funny. Like, I remember that he said, "Well, wa siya kabaloon sa on." Okay, inko bay ang power button. Siya, sir, asa man power button? Inko bay, the one that says power button. Like, it was one of those computers na nasa middle.
Thinking about it, considering now that there's so many call centers here, ba, and then these are big companies. I'm sure that in a corporate setting, I'm sure it's a lot better in general. I also know, my wife used to be in recruiting, no? But I know there's a whole bunch of like similar stories also.
Yeah.
Like with them, they go through hundreds of people a day. So grab be good, but I'm sure it's so much better now. I'm
I
going
hope so.
to assume.
I hope so. Because one of the things I noticed before, and this was quite sad, like why I had a hard time choosing the designers, is because they had no background on what's going on. When I
What do
was
you mean?
in,
What's going on?
it's like this. When I applied for Camp Cebu, when I was interviewed by Zen Pastoriza, the managing director at that time, I never forgot this because I got the technical skills down, the conceptualizing down, I got it all down. But he asked me this question: what current ad is your favorite or caught your eye?
Okay.
And I couldn't answer it because I wasn't paying attention what was going on. So, and then I had no exposure at the time of, certain products or whatever. And that stuck by me because I never answered it. But then he was kind enough to give me the job. But, that's another thing that I would advise, the designers now is, but then again, people are luckier now because back then there was no Pinterest, no Google, no ads of the week, no websites. And then now there's so many. But then also, so my advice to that is you need to be aware what ads are going on, but you shouldn't rely on what's on the internet. Buy a newspaper and open it. So, but then now everything is prevalent. Kaya na siya sa YouTube, na siya online. So it's easier now. So there's really no excuse now why you shouldn't know what's going on.
Yeah, to be fair, I feel like the kids these days seem to be a lot more aware. Like I always think of every time I see, let's say, an 18-year-old or a 20-year-old, and then I compare.
That sounds wrong.
Yeah, no, not seeing that way. No, but I compare them to me at the time ba. No?
Yeah.
And then I know nga, I wasn't doing anything.
We weren't paying attention before.
I was barely passing school.
Yeah.
And then not really doing anything. And then I meet a lot of kids now they're legit doing something. They're trying this. They're trying their own brand thing, or they're helping a company do this. And then what they lack in experience,
they can get it now.
It's something that's why they're doing whatever thing they're doing, so they can get experience. And because so what's going from a lot of them, which is obviously true because they're still young, is real life experience.
Yeah.
No.
Mona siya, kids are lucky these days, so walang excuse. Walang excuse why you suck at it. But at the same time, there's the problem also there is like, because everything is available to them. The problem is also their designs also suffer. And what I mean by that is like, whatever is uso sa Pinterest, chances are muna ang design nga mo gawas. Now, there's nothing wrong with that because if you really know what you want, I mean, I do that. I mean, ako, when I get bored or when I have no idea what I'm doing for a particular client, I always look at what's online. But you, as a designer, should not depend on that. At the end of the day, it's still up to you to know what you want, to know which is good design, because the problem with always choosing something that's whatever is prevalent now, whatever the trend is now, chances are it's not going to be the trend next year. So you have to be able to tell which one is timeless or not. So I was lucky enough to know that early on. Like, I mean, there was a time that I really sucked. So, but then I had to learn the hard way how to know which design. And then when you get to know that, when you know who you are as a designer, and how do you quantify that? It's like, there are designers who just specialize in one thing, or not one thing specifically, like nae direction. Like, I know this designer, like Ingyahan design is really more on illustration, vibrant colors. I also know another designer, his specialty is more on for the apps and whatever. So you need early on to find out what's your niche as a designer. I would advise that. Like, for me, the funny thing about me is, I'm not, right now I'm known as a logo designer, a brand specialist. But believe it or not, 10 years ago, I hated logos. I really hated it. I don't like designing logos. Sometimes I still don't. I get PTSD. But then I kept doing it and I realized that I was good at it. And the takeaway I had from it was like, why am I good at this even though I hated it? And then I realized it's because, that's personality, like everything just fell into place that I liked it, and then I can charge more.
Yeah.
So my advice for people is that if you can figure out what your niche is, you should do that. Because me, like, why do I hate logo design? Because when I was in Camp Cebu, we had logo projects, but I hated it because it was so boring. What I wanted to do was more on campaigns and advertising. But after 5 years of working there nonstop, and literally nonstop, I only took a leave, siguro, total of 10 days.
Yeah.
I was so not taking vacations that every year I would get a certain amount. Diba? If you don't use your leaves,
Yeah,
you get a
that's
certain
right.
amount. So mine was funny because the accounting, si Tess was, or even si Miss Vicky was already telling me to go on a leave. They're not going to give you money next year. Like, you take a leave. I'm like, okay, fine, I'm going to take a leave. So like, if I was such a workaholic back then. But then I remember I hated logo design. But then when I got burned out, and then I had to survive as a designer, because after 5 years, around 2010, I left Camp Cebu and I was freelancing for 3 months. Now, my freelancing didn't really happen after I left. It happened organically for me. When I was working in camp, as much as I could, every time na ay mga friends or clients who want to get services from me, I would always refer them to camp. But there were certain clients that I know who could never afford them. So I would take them on my own. And one of those was si Abaca Group, Jason Hyatt. So
Really?
yeah, my very first client
No, but
was...
like, he's the Abaca, but they
Yes.
couldn't afford camp.
No. He didn't want to do camp.
Oh.
But at the time he was starting pa man.
Yeah,
and then
that's true.
camp, I mean, as much as I love camp, we were really too expensive. Murabitog, they're gonna give you a tank when what you need is actually just a scooter.
Mo lagi,
So one problem with, they were good at it, but they were expensive. If you don't need it, come on, don't get it. So one of my first clients was si Jason Hyatt, and then after him was B Resorts. So those were my staple clients back then. And then the only reason I got Abaca at that time was because of a referral from Richard from iCenter, because I was such a Mac user. I was part of the community, and then we got to know each other, and then referring ko yung clients. So it really pays to have friends in Apple stores. So and then
Isn't there like a name for you, Apple loving?
no. What was it? Mac fanatics, Apple heads, or
there's no derogative name.
no. Come on, we're nice. Although I do remember a time when we were assholes. My God, we were such assholes.
Karon ba mainstream naman kayo mo?
Yeah, mainstream to me, it's gross. I liked Apple before it was cool. But yeah, I mean, when I started with Abaca, it spiraled into Maya, and then Fatfo, A-Cafe, all those things. So
you did, that's right. But you did all of the...
but until last year, I already stopped na. Because he moved to, I think he's already with Happy Garaje.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Yeah. But that one, no regrets there, although I do miss it sometimes. It's just that he was my client for 10 years. So there comes a time when you have to move on. So we moved on. We reached that point na I don't want to say a relationship because I'll get in trouble. But there reached a point na you have to move on. So
well, you also recommended Happy Garaje to...
No, that one, because in 2014 I moved to Manila for a year. And then I told him that I might not be able to service him for that year. So he got into Happy Garaje. And also, what happened also was that his direction at the time, he wanted to be more illustrations.
Yeah.
So, diba, the Abaca Baking, all the drawings. So, it was a natural fit for Happy Garaje. I don't do drawings, digital drawings kayo sa graphic design. That's the funny thing about me, is that I always split my drawings and my design. I don't sell my drawings, actually. If it's a logo project or a logo symbol or an illustration, yeah, fine. But I treat it as a design rather than a drawing. So at that time, I didn't have my iPad Pro yet, so I didn't want to draw. So that's how he got sila Happy Garaje. And they're doing good stuff now. So at least. But he gave me my first big break, Abaca and then CB Resorts, which I'm still handling now. And then I got Ferrero Singapore. For a while, from 2009 to the first part of 2012, I was the freelance graphic designer for Ferrero Rocher. Ferrero Rocher if you want. So I was handling Kinder Bueno. Before it was here, I was doing that egg thing. That egg Kinder thing. That was not here in Cebu pa, that egg with toys.
So you designed that?
Well, here's the thing. It wasn't designing so much as adapting the designs to Singapore and Southeast Asia markets. Because I love these kinds of projects.
Just so I know. That egg shape.
Yes. Yes.
Chocolate outer.
Yes. With a toy inside.
With a toy inside.
Yeah, I used to handle actually, if you go to the stores in Singapore or some stores here, if you look at their displays in the groceries, those are my old designs. So, I used to design because they were really aggressive in Singapore. Nutella I designed Nutella. So, yeah. So,
for Singapore.
Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong. It was funny because, and here's a tidbit about that. It's like, every time they have a campaign, they had this one look. So for example, Nutella, breakfast for a family. So you had a family with a mom, dad, 2 kids, and 1 baby. So they had a picture. If it's for Hong Kong, they all look Chinese. If it was for Malaysia, they all look Malaysian. If they are all Singaporean, they were a mix of Asian and Malaysian.
So you weren't doing the logo design pa. You were just putting.
I was adapting. Yes. I was adapting the head campaign, localizing it.
Okay.
So I made that was a really good paying job, and then it was easy. But that's how I actually developed my designs, my Photoshop skills further. Because what happened was they would send their files from the designers in Europe, and these were layered files. I would reverse engineer what they did. That's how I learned how to group layers. That's how I learned how to use masking properly, the channels and everything. I mean, in those days, it was a dream come true for me. Like I was learning on the job and I was getting paid good money for it. And then the funny part was my clients were in Singapore. I never met them in my 5 years of gone for them. I never met them face to face.
So how did you get?
Okay. The story of that was, my batchmate, si Christina Gothong, she worked in, I think it was, what was that? Unsay kontra ni Unilever. P. Starts with letter P.
Proctor and Gamble.
Proctor and Gamble, PNG.
Yeah.
So it's either Unilever or Procter. So she was in PNG in Singapore, and then her office mate was also there, si Alan Tikat.
Wait, Christina got.
Yeah, si Guts. She was working in Singapore. Christina Guts she was also in marketing, and then Alan was also in marketing. They had me make a poster for them. It was a motivational poster for PNG. So I made that one project. That's it. Forgot about it. Si Alan, her office mate, resigned and joined Ferrero Rocher. And he hired me for, and the funny part was I only met him when he resigned, so in Singapore. And then, yeah, I mean, that was fun. Everything was done through email, everything. And this was the day there was no WhatsApp, no Viber, none of that phone stuff. Everything was done through email. So I owe Yahoo.com when it was still okay. I owed Yahoo Mail, but yeah, I mean, everything was done through email, and then I designed. It started with Ferrero Rocher, and
this is what 2010,
2009, 10, 11, 12,
okay.
4 years. So I have like a bunch of files there, and then I laid out Nutella when they started introducing Nutella here. The funny part there, Nutella was where I had my breaking point with eating, because diba I had Ferrero Rocher. Dili ko gutomon because I don't really like that. Katong Kinder Bueno, it's okay. I mean, the egg thing, okay. Nutella. When I was handling Nutella, that was when SNR opened in Cebu. So they had that big one there. Remember they had that sale there? So I actually bought one. And then the funny part was when I showed it, at the time it was another person who was handling it in Singapore. When I showed them, hey, there's a Nutella here. I'm going to try it. And then she got really mad that why was there that size in the Philippines? It turns out the big sizes you see, at that time, they were smuggled here. They're not supposed to be here in the Philippines.
Mo ba?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
And then if you actually look, if there's only English in the label, from the US na siya nga Nutella. Kaya di ba si SNR from the US? But now, it's here now. My job back then was that iconic packaging. I have the file of that. I edited it, localized it per country. So, we translated it for this and so, but wala gyud sa supply sa Philippines.
Wala gyud.
Wala gyud. So I'm like,
sayang, so you never saw your actual...
Yeah, so I said, you know what? she was like, she was very angry why I bought it. I'm like, I want to eat it. So, it was so bad. I think I gained a lot of weight, but I had to lay out many.
You had a lot more than one.
Yeah, but imagine
Nutella.
nag-layout ka and then you have one jar and then I eat Nutella weird. I like freezing it. And then, not freezer, like, ako siya ipagahi sa ref. And then when you eat it, more chunks of chocolates.
Oh
Yeah, I love that.
That sounds so good.
Yeah, God, it's been years since I had a Nutella. I had to kick the habit. But man, I mean, and then I remember that one part we had to put the label na don't be scared. Kasi diba, when you have a Nutella, there's oil that seeps at the top.
Okay.
So I actually was the one who made the label for that it's safe, that you just have to mix it. That oil. So it's a natural oil, whatever. Natural. So yeah, I mean, so Ferrero Rocher for a while and then I got Monster Energy drink.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the one in Manila. It's the distributor was actually my batchmate in Ateneo.
So these are all so a lot of your clients really got them through
Friends.
Kanang friends.
Yeah, I would honestly say that I am an accidental freelancer because I have never once tried to go out there and knock on doors, look for clients. I've been lucky that I get referrals and I guess testament to I did a good job.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
I mean, it grew from there. And then, of course, what really helped was it was funny that when I resigned from camp, I had no plans what to do back then because I was so burned out. I just wanted to, just rest and have fun. Pag resign noon ako daghanin noon akong clients. Like, it's like they knew I resigned. So I had so many projects and then after 3 months, I was doing a lot of I was actually making more money than I ever did when I was in camp. And then pag 4th month, I got a bit I got worried because by the time the 4th month came in, they all dried up. And that's when looking back, that I didn't know back then that the nature of this business, the freelancing, there will always be downtime. It's your responsibility to make sure you can get through these hard times. So yeah, I mean, back then I didn't know that. So I joined Bouncing Ball. I went into animation. So yeah, I was there for 3 years. It was a totally different thing. It was more on animation. We were trying to make cartoon shows. Unfortunately, it didn't take off. The ending there was I went to Manila. I worked there for a year for a company.
You stopped freelancing now at this point?
I was still doing it on the side because when I joined Bouncing Ball, the owner was kind enough to let me keep my clients. And when it closed, we actually created another company called Right Angle. Right Angle was because Bouncing Ball was more on creating TV cartoon shows. We were pitching it. When it closed, we rebranded it into Right Angle. Right Angle was more on mga motion graphics. Back when motion graphics wasn't a big. I mean, now it's everywhere. But man, at the time when we were making it, we were the only ones making it, and then we were marketing it to everyone. And then it's. I feel kind of bad about it that by the time people already saw the value of it, we already closed as a company. So we were too early.
Runway
yeah, but then even back then, I still have that video that I made that we already predicted that all these videos will be, you can view it on the phone, on the billboards and everything. And then, yeah, I mean, we foresaw it. Unfortunately, we weren't able to capitalize on it.
That's the problem sometimes when you're too early.
Yeah. Although the good thing about it was because I learned that, so I was able to add a skill to my repertoire, which is motion graphics. So for those who don't know, motion graphics is basically
Yeah, it got cut because I suck. Yeah. So yeah. So. You made a company called Right Angle.
Yeah, we established a company called Right Angle. We were focused, while Bouncing Ball was focusing on 2D animation and shows. It didn't fly off because our funding was cut. We restructured, and with the same people, we created a smaller company called Right Angle Corp. Right Angle was more on graphic design and logo design and motion graphics. We focused more on motion graphics. And then, yeah, I mean, it closed down after 2014. But in 2014, that year, I went to Manila, because what happened was, well, a lot of our guys left, and then we had a client in Manila who was looking to hire us for a year. So it was decided that I would be the one to go there, to be based there. So I was their marketing arm for 1 year in Manila. And it was fun there. I mean, when I was in Manila, I honestly believe I grew there as a designer because I lived near Greenbelt. So every day to get dinner, I would walk all over Glorieta and Greenbelt to make sure I get I could see all the displays, all the, and I would go to Fully Book, I would go to this and that. So it was nice. There was this, every night I could get visual appetite. My visual hunger was sated every night. And I would advise that to anyone. I mean, especially when you're abroad, like in Singapore or Hong Kong, there are malls. I mean, you don't have to buy anything because everything's expensive nowadays, but it's really fun to just see what they're doing. Because if you want to know what the trends are in design, in actual design, and I say actual because people nowadays, they rely too much on Pinterest or websites like Google. That's not really the real world. At the end of the day, most of them are just artists who uploaded what wasn't approved, but they liked it. But when you go and see the real stuff in the real world, these are the things that the clients approved. So these are the actual designs that have gone out there. So it was always, that's one of the things I miss about Manila, looking at all these stores. Although Cebu has malls, you have to admit our malls here aren't as updated as they are in Manila. Yeah, so that's what happened.
Some of the frontage in the malls, they've been there for
they've been there for
opened.
See, it's Metro, may ganyan, nasunog si Metro. At least ma-change na ko.
Oh my God, I can't believe you said that.
What? Look, it's new now. There's a whole grunge emo thing going on.
Well, they're tearing it down a bit.
Yeah, I wish they'd cover it though. Okay, sad kasi every time gumawagi.
I know, it looks so sad.
That's why it looks so emo. If ever there was a building that was emo, that's the one.
So you came back to Cebu, and then so the right angle wala na.
Yeah.
And then you had to grow your freelance business again.
Yeah, I was actually planning to stay in Manila. I actually applied there, several agencies there, because I actually had this dream. It's gone now. The dream before was to work in an advertising agency in Manila. I always wanted to do that because I missed advertising, but there were some problems here in Cebu, especially with the family. I had to help, and at the same time, I decided, you know what? Okay, I can't work happy if I can't fix this. So I decided to come back to Cebu and then decided to help out in my family business while at the same time rebuilding my freelance clients.
So it's almost like starting from zero.
Yeah, but not really zero because when I was in Manila, although I lost contact to a lot of Cebu clients, I was actually still servicing some clients. I had some retainers with me. So when I came back, I had 2 or 3 retainers and then, I was able to rebuild it. There was one point I was servicing 6 clients, 6 retainers in 1 month, every month for that year. And then one of the notable clients I gained in 2015 was Robinson's Galleria. They were opening. So if ever you're in Robinson's Galleria in Cebu, if you see those board ups with the frames, I did that. And then it's actually funny that it's pretty cool that they're still there because their stores aren't full yet.
Yeah.
So it's nice to seeing that, like, hey, it's still there. My stuff is still there. And then aside from that, I was able to reconnect with UC Med. So I'm very proud of that, the hospital, or UC Med, because I actually designed their logo way back in 2013 or 2012, 2013, yeah. So before I left for Manila, we designed the logo while they were still building the hospital. It was literally just plans back then. And then when I came back in 2015, like all of a sudden there's this big hospital in Recla and then it was done. So, I reconnected with them. I was their graphic designer for, until 2017. And then they reactivated this year again. So there was that cycle with them. So that was a notable client. UC Med, Galleria. What else today?
So wait, when you came from Manila and you went to Cebu, so you had not as many clients as before. So how did you get them back?
Okay. What I did was, and people will now understand why I did this. If you actually were my Facebook friend or Instagram friend, you would notice that in 2015, I kept posting a lot of stuff in Cebu, that I was back in Cebu. So that was my way of saying, hey, I'm back. So I'm back in Cebu and it worked actually. I mean,
social media presence.
Yeah, I knew that some of my clients were following me. And I also knew that a lot of my friends while I was gone were making their own things and we reconnected. And, like I said earlier, I've never really knocked on doors and asked for, please, sir, can you give me a job? So I haven't done that. What I did was indirectly like that. So just to announce that I was back. And then and to some extent, it really worked. Honestly, I was so busy when I came back. That's actually pretty funny for me. Like every time I decide to go full time, this was the second time in my life I did that. I always get so busy. So I'm really thankful for that. Whether it's God or the fates, whatever, I'm really happy for that. So, but aside from that is I also took the time I reviewed all the clients that were not active anymore. And then I reached out to them. So what I did was, hey, I'm back in Cebu.
Send them a text?
Yeah, I texted them. Some I called, some I emailed. Some I realized were no longer working there. So that was funny. And then there was, that one is funny because there was one client that I texted that I'm back, but then she replied, I'm no longer with that company, but hey, I can use you in this new company. So something like that. So it was really, I know this is hard for some artists to put themselves out there, but unfortunately you have no choice. You have to whore yourself out. You have to tell everyone you're available. So I did that and lucky. And then the funny part is, until now, I really don't have many clients that are because of relatives. Most of my clients are really because of friends, because I don't know, there's always a disparity. So yeah, when I came back, it was pretty lucky for me that, I got a lot of clients. And a year later was because at that time there was still that not really a stigma there, that clients were still asking, hey, you're here, this is Cebu. It took a while for them to finally be convinced that I was back for good. Because some of them were worried that I would leave again or whatever. So I said, no. This is final for the foreseeable future. So yeah.
But you're still doing a lot of like just layouting and because you mentioned like you're doing a lot of logos.
Yeah. What I do most of the time, okay, this is actually how I structure my clients. There are two kinds of clients that I have. One client is the per project basis. And then the per project is usually a logo project, or it can be a campaign or packaging design or for whatever it is. The second client, which I prefer, are the retainer clients. Retainer clients are basically, they hire you every month for X number of months, usually for a year. You have a contract. You get a staple amount every month and X number of layouts per client. So, and then the good thing about that, and you have to let your client know this, is that regardless of how many they let you do every month, your payment has to remain the same. This is the same thing as the retainer for a lawyer, retainer for not a doctor, but the retainer that's really where I am. Where I make, this is what keeps me afloat every month versus the designers that are always looking for per project. Although I do know people that although they're per project, consistently per project, but me, I prefer the retainer because it's like a paycheck actually. One of the things that I miss being a freelancer is the constant paycheck. And the closest thing you can get to that is a retainer.
Yeah, because the problem, and if you have to always look for projects, then you're basically looking for a new client every time. So now you have to divide your time from doing the actual work and then looking for a client.
Yeah. And that sucks so bad. That's really that. There was a time like last year. I'll be frank with you. Last year was really bad for me as a freelancer. The first time I had my down, because it's usually for me it's just up plateau. So last year, and it's actually not just me. I don't know what was up with 2017, but a lot of my fellow creatives were having a really bad year design-wise. It wasn't because there was no job to be had. For some reason, clients were acting, well, for lack of a better term, they were there's douchebags that year. There were those who wouldn't pay. There were those who just stopped calling me entirely. So 2017 was a really bad year. I lost a lot of good clients who went away for one reason or another. But having a retainer really helps you get through that. But if I was a per project basis for that year, man, that would have been hard. So yeah, last year was really bad. So, and it's not just me. And I still don't know what was up with that. Well, it was the year of the rooster. It was a cock year. You can bleep that.
No, we don't bleep in the show.
There's no other explanation. What the hell was up with that year?
Pero, okay, so I know you. Of course, we're talking a lot about your design, your graphic design side. But personally, I know you because I don't see the graphic design side.
Yes.
When you make a logo for UC
Yeah.
your name is
Yeah.
not on the bottom right.
Yeah. There's an explanation for that. If I'm really active on social media, but you rarely see what I do design wise. It's not because I can't, although technically I can't, because there's an agreement with the client.
Yeah, you're not allowed.
Yeah. Every once in a while, if I'm really happy with what I made, I will ask for permission to post it. Or if I see a billboard that I did, I usually post it. But most of the time I don't. And the thing about that is because, when you're a designer, we go back to it, being a designer is like, whatever you make, the creative output is not yours. It's not like an artwork that it's yours. So I don't post it because, well, sometimes it's not post worthy. but I have this habit na I don't like, showing off my portfolio in my social media other than in my website, iambry.com, letter I, letter M, B-R-Y. I put it there, my portfolio, because I noticed that even if I post it on my social media, there's a big chance that it won't really get me any new clients. People already know what I do anyway. So I only post once in a blue moon. And I don't really
only post your clients once in a blue moon.
Yeah, once in a blue moon. I don't really, or if I'm really proud of something, sure, I'll post it.
Because me, I enjoy following you on Instagram because you post your drawings on Instagram. And then that's where, as a consumer, I guess, no?
Yeah.
That's where I latch on.
Yeah.
No? And then, so I wanted to, well, as you were talking, I was wondering, have you ever tried getting clients because of your artwork? Because of what? Oh, yeah. So I should explain.
Yeah.
So on your Instagram, you like to draw. You put up like drawings of like you have your comic strips or
Sunday
cartoon
sketch,
characters or kinangana. Oh.
Yeah. And then very rarely I post the graphic design work. Okay. So yeah, this is a long story and it's actually kind of sad. Why yeah, you will feel bad after this for asking me. Anyway, before I actually stopped drawing from my last book, 2009, The Hidden Humor, because I was so burned out from drawing, because I had to draw every single panel. That's when I Am Bry came out. I Am Bry is literally just one drawing and I just keep changing the eyes because I wanted to stop drawing and then just see if I could create a comic strip just using words. Because here's the thing.
So I Am Bry is a comic. It's supposedly you in front of your...
Yes. It's about a fat guy named Bry-O just staring in front of his iMac and he's just chatting with his friends in this archaic messaging thing called Yahoo Messenger. That's why it's called I Am Bry. It actually stands for Internet Messenger Bry, which kids don't know. This was before Viber.
I thought I thought the I and I Am Bry
like
was
I,
like
me.
like an Apple thing.
No. Well, it was, but it was it was supposed to be why I'm Bry, why am Bry. So why I am Bry, but I couldn't make it that because Yahoo Messenger, man, I might get in trouble. So it became I Am Bry. And it's funny because if you actually look at it now, the character is holding a phone. That happened in 2014, but it started in 2010. Oh my God, 2010 to 2013, he was just chatting in his computer. In 2014, I shifted the character. He was using the phone na. So if you actually read the old books, wonder if it's just a small thing that you won't notice. But now he's actually on his phone na because everything is on the phone. So I did that and then I still wasn't drawing. In 2012, right around Diablo 3 came out, I broke my hand. I was diagnosed with carpal tunnel syndrome.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not because of Diablo, although fuck that guy. He clicks a mouse. But for the longest time, I was having this problem that when I draw, my hand would cramp up or weaken siya. That's actually why if you were a follower of my old comics, the Hidden Humor, if you check the last panel, it looks a bit wonky compared to the first three because when you draw left to right, carpal tunnel, my symptom of carpal tunnel is the moment my hands get tired, I can no longer control it. By the time we reach sa end sa page sa right side, wala na. I'm too tired. My hands are cramping up na. So I was diagnosed with that and I was told by Dr. Flordelis of Perpetual to get PT. So physical therapy, and it involves just putting your hand in hot water, literally hot water, putting it scalding paraffin wax. So imagine there's melted candle wax in your fingernails. It is not a good thing. So I'm paying someone to do that, and then ultrasound, ultra whatever. So it involved a lot of stuff to do to your hand, and mahal siya by like 900 pesos every session. And I had to do that 3 times a week. So I went through that, but it's still broken, and I have to get an operation to unhinge the nerve that's trapped or whatever. I decided that, okay, I have to get an operation. So I researched, and it turns out this is the number one problem of designers and artists. Lately, it is the number one problem of call center agents and BPOs. Kasi click sa mouse. Your mouse is killing you, people. And then the worst offender, ang Apple mouse. It's nice, but it's not good for your hand, ang mouse. I've just learned to adapt it na lang. So when that happened, and then I researched, there were some who said, the operation is not really that serious, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But there's always that one or two guys
There's always
said,
a hint. There's always somebody who said, like, my hand was chopped off.
Yeah. There's always that. And then, do I want to take that chance? Muna, I was really worried about that. And it made me decide, you know what? I want to draw again. Maguba naman gid akong kamot. I might as well destroy it while drawing as much as I can. That's how the Sunday sketch was born in 2012. And also timing po, that time I was with Bouncing Ball. I wanted to learn animation. I was taught by Ling Saniza and Marvin Paracuelas, the team there. They taught me how to draw properly because for the longest time before that moment, I had no formal training in drawing. I had no idea about proportions. They taught me that. So I was training right around the time na I was learning how to draw again. Most of the time nga naguba akong kamot. Most of the time nga I was diagnosed with carpal tunnel. So I decided, you know what? I'm gonna start drawing again every weekend. I'm gonna make this a habit. So because a lot of artists, a lot of designers I know, they're always surprised how I can do everything I do. Like at any given moment, I have 6K. Like right now, I have four retainers now, and yet I still have time to do my drawings and several projects. How do I do that? They get shocked. And then me, I just say it's really habit. It's really discipline. And when I tell myself I will draw for 1 hour today and I will finish it, I will do it. Because that's why I have a timer. You've seen my IKEA timer. I have 2 at home.
Really?
I have one in my room. I have one in the kitchen.
So is that your technique? You turn the timer on for 1 hour and then you just draw.
Draw. And then there's nothing beyond.
Focus on it, good.
Yeah. But that's not all the time. I mean, most of the time I can draw whatever naman. But there are really times, especially when I need to, when I'm too busy, but I need to do this. I will turn on whatever music, turn on the timer, and then just focus on it. So, Sunday sketch started out with my little moleskin. I started drawing. Yeah.
So did you have the surgery?
No.
No?
No, until now. It still hurts.
Oh my god.
Still hurts. Let's see. How many sketchbooks do I have, right?
Oh, yeah.
Para lang you'll see it.
Sure. So wait, so every time you draw, it still hurts?
I've learned to manage it. For those who are wondering how every morning when you wake, first of all, after you work, do not wash your hands in cold water when you're in the mouse all day, because the cold water will cramp your nerves. That's what the thing that traps it. So if you want to wash your hands after, hot water, ayaw cold water, and then you need to shake your hands para mo release siya. I used to, germaphobe ko, I keep washing my hands before. So, that's, But, yeah, I mean, every morning, what you do is, if you have access to hot water and then you have a tub, this is what the guy in Perpetual taught me. You put hot water, as hot as you can, but not to the point na scalding na siya or it hurts you. And then dunk your hand in every morning.
How long?
As long as you can stand it.
Oh, yeah?
But
How long do you do
mga 1 minute.
So do you do it every day?
If there are days, well, lately no, because I've learned to live with it na. There are days it doesn't really hurt anymore. But if there are days nga mo hurt siya, wala. Turn on, put hot water.
So there's still days nga sakit?
Yeah. Like, okay, today is November, what are we now? November 9? Inktober just finished. So Inktober I was drawing every day. That hurt.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
It hurts. Okay, so I have like these red sketchbooks, 2012, 2013, 14. So these were the first ones that I made. I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 moleskins, and then I switched to the bigger one. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7 big ones and 6 small
Can you
ones.
take a picture of this?
Yeah, take a picture later. But these are all
These are all
full.
drawings.
Yeah,
These are
except
all-
for this middle. These are the ones that are not. Ano. But yeah, those are the rest. Yeah, they're all full.
So what year did you know that you had carpal tunnel? Or
This
that,
one,
like,
2012.
oh my
So
God.
I know. I labeled it.
So you did a lot of drawing. You
Yeah,
did a lot of drawing. After
Yeah, there was
2012.
a point I was doing 3 drawings a week. And then one of the things that happened also was that I discovered Copic markers. So the one on the desk, you see that the Copic markers.
Oh yeah, okay.
So those are every artist's dreams. I'm pretty sure every time I show that, they have like, they just get shocked because it's so expensive. It's like every pen is like 240 pesos.
Each pen?
Yeah, each marker.
Oh,
And
you have a lot of pens there.
yeah, that's 72. And then I have 72 refills. So this is 300 bucks each. This is 200 pesos each. So 72 times 240 times
Can you get that here in Cebu?
320. No.
Oh, where
They
did you
don't-
get that?
You can only buy this through Manila. They have a distributor there, Great Toys Online, or the official distributor in the Philippines. There's no retail store.
Because I was gonna ask you. I know that you're in some ways you're kind of a gadget freak.
Yeah.
No? So I was gonna ask you like kanang well, it's here somewhere. I don't know where it is. But what piece of equipment do you love? No?
Sa,
Or, like,
for in terms of what, design or?
I don't know, because I know that like I know you have that camera there. I'm just curious.
Okay.
Anything.
Well, for me, at any given moment, I have my MacBook Pro, MacBook Pro 15-inch. That's where I do all my work and my movies. And I always have my iPad, my iPad 10.5-inch with the Apple Pencil. So that one that's where I draw the current Hidden Humor, and all my comics and books are there. So I read there. So my iPad is basically content consumption. My MacBook is content creation for, graphic design. I have my phone, obviously. So these 3 objects are always with me. I used to have a camera with me, but because the iPhone's camera is already okay, I don't bring my Fuji anymore. I only bring my Fuji X100 when I need to shoot professionally or when I'm traveling. Which of the gadgets would be my favorite? I mean, until now, it would probably be my iPad now, not so much my MacBook Pro. But then I still have to bring it because my work. But
Yeah.
if in terms of like kung artist stuff, the iPad Pro is pretty good. But mona, I have to make money, so I have to do the MacBook. Now, this is the funny part. Although I'm a gadget person, I still carry with me a sketchbook. So
yeah,
if
because
you
I was
ask-
gonna say not when I say gadget, I probably not. I probably shouldn't have used the word gadget. I probably
tool?
wanted to ask, what's the thing that you love?
Okay. In terms of, those 3 are in terms of gadgets. But in terms of like my art stuff, what do I really love? Number 1 would be the Copic markers, because this took me, like back in 2012, I only had 12. And then now I have 72.
You mean you have to buy each
Yeah, you
piece?
cannot, you can buy it per set, but it's better if you buy piece so you can set up your
colors.
Your colors. The system ang good of Copic markers, there's these numbers like red 01, red 04. Those numbers actually have a meaning to them, because you can color if it's less than 1 or 0 or 1, these are your really light pastel colors. If you go for if it's like the 4 or 9 or the higher numbers, these are the shadows, and then everything in between are the midtones. So if you actually look at my desk, you can see there's a gradation of color from light to dark,
Yeah,
light
I
to dark.
noticed.
Yeah, because
I actually thought that, because I was looking at it, I thought that was a set.
No,
Because
I built-
it's organized in such a way that the colors kind of make sense visually.
yeah, that's really that took me 5 years to reach that level. And ano na lang, Carl, to get the complete Copic markers, it's 5 of that.
Oh wow, really?
There's still a lot more that I have no plans of buying anymore. Okay. The problem ang good way is if you look at my desk, that's an official Copic desk. That's like $2,000 kanang stand niya alone. That can house 72. If I add another color, I have nowhere to put it, and I'm too OC. I have to buy another one na 72, and I have to fill it again. So I don't want to do it again. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm so tired. De, pero ako ba, this one, why Copic markers? Why not watercolor? First of all, I don't do watercolor because I'm really bad at it. I have no patience for drying time. And the problem with watercolor is, you need the paper. And you cannot do this with normal, sketch pads. I know people who can do great work with that. Me, I have no patience for it. I like to do things the proper way. What was taught is that should be the way. If you have to do watercolor, you have to do actual watercolor paper. So I suck at watercolor, basically. Even mixing. To this day, I have no idea what to mix for flash color in watercolor. But Copic markers act like watercolor. You can mix and match the colors. And that's what I love about it. Like, and then there's specific markers, cause these are used by anime artists, manga artists in Japan.
Oh, okay.
And the only reason I discovered it is because I was in Singapore 2010. After the wedding of the one we talked earlier, Christina Gotts, me and Pare, my best friend Reginald Santos, we went to Kinokuniya in Orchard Road. Back then, Kinokuniya in Takashimaya Mall, there was an Art Friend branch at the very top. I got lost there. And I discovered this big art store. And at that time, 2010, I was on a break. I wasn't drawing yet. But then I saw this set of Copic markers. And I didn't even know what they were. I just bought it. Because I remember seeing it in one of the artists that work for Marvel. And it turns out that, and then 2 years later, when I had my carpal tunnel, I wanted to draw again. I got the markers, which for 2 years was not used at all. It was just in my closet. I got that out, draw with it, and then I realized that I liked it, and I researched more about it. And yeah, 5 years later, I completed my set. And then the nice thing about Copic markers, for those who think that they are expensive. And for me, it's worth it because the brush alone, like it has two types of tips. One tip is a chisel, the marker, kanang the edge tip of a highlighter. Okay. That's one. The other part is a soft brush. Nga mura siya watercolor brush.
Ah, okay.
That is handmade. So there was a shortage of Copic markers 2 to 3 years ago. They couldn't make them fast enough because it's starting to pick up the world. And then what I like also about it is that you can buy refills. That's the problem with markers here sa Philippines and Cebu. You cannot refill them. And then the ones who are trying to pirate, like the knockoffs of Copics, there's no refills. So if you can't refill, it's useless. So the refill is 320 pesos. And then the marker is 240 pesos. So you're spending 560 for a single pen with refill. But here's the thing. The refill is good for 10 to 15 refills.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's probably a lot.
Yeah, and to empty a marker, and I've done this, it will take you 2 full pages of bond paper to empty it. So that's a lot. You don't really color that much. So yeah, that would be my favorite. The second one would be my pens, which I'm holding here. All my fountain pens and my brush pens and my fountain pens. So this one is all my other pens. So lately I'm on a fountain pen phase. I'm trying to improve my handwriting. But this one on the left, these are all brush pens. So this is the expensive one. Like literally it's a brush.
Oh, okay.
So this is how you get the varying lines. So these are Kuretake brands. So there are other brands, but I love the Kuretake because it's really the...
Are these all different colors? Or?
No, it's just one color.
This...
Yeah, these are all black.
These 12 pens are all black?
No.
All those brushes?
These are 12. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Oh, okay, sorry.
The three fountain pens are different colors.
Okay. So the 7...
the 7 brush pens are all black. But the thing is, there are 3 different models. Like the first 3, this is the Kuretake Yume Ginga. I don't know if I'm saying that right. This is like their high-end brush. It's made of weasel hair na I'm pretty sure is like endangered. This one is the Kuretake Makie or number 50. It also uses an animal fur but the lesser grade. The last 2 are the most common ones is made of synthetic. Now, at the end of the day, it's still a brush pen, but I can honestly profess that each of these brushes have their own look and style to it. And then if you want to know why how that is. If you look at all my drawings, if you look at it closely, I don't zoom in magud to my comics. You have to do it manually to zoom in. But you can see the varying lines when I draw, like thin to thick. And then if I wanted to because my drawings are never perfect. There's always something wrong with it. If it's perfect, that's already you're a robot. If your drawing is perfect. So there's always something wrong in my drawings. And what I love about brush pens is that every mistake, like if you flick it or if you stroke it wrong, it will show. So you're disciplined to really be precise. And it takes talent that if you can draw a circle with thin lines with a brush pen, I don't think anyone can do that without practice. No, it's thin. Otherwise, anyone who does it, mo thick line na siya because you don't have control of your hands. Now, why a brush pen? Before, I actually used the tech pens, the Uniball, the G-Tech. The problem is, again, I have carpal tunnel. I have to keep pushing the pen because I'm partial to thick outlines. So I discovered brush pens because I have there's this artist, Marvel artist, Scotty Young. He used to be an artist. He was famous for creating, the Wizard of Oz adaptation in Marvel. But he has this distinct style and then he's drawing his own stuff right now. He's really like the one, you see that? The one on top of my Mac? That's him. Scotty Young.
On your monitor.
Yeah, those are his drawings. So he's the one who made that famous, the Little Marvel.
Oh,
His style is, diba, you know Calvin and Hobbes. His style is actually Calvin and Hobbes style. Speaking of Calvin and Hobbes, if you actually look at my pencil case, so on the left side are all my expensive pens. On the right side I always carry with me additional Copic markers, the light gray and the mid-tone gray. Because one of the bad things lang I don't like about Copic markers, it's really hard to bring them with you. I actually have a case that I can travel with, but it's really, diba, it's really heavy and stuff. So I carry with me 2 grays para if I have the need to color, I just put shadows, so it's black and white. And then I have the this is what I used to draw with it before the brush pen. These are Copic markers na multi-liners. They're basically like the Uniball Copic marker na brand. And then I have here Pilot G-Tech red and black. I always carry this with me because when I was growing up, I love G-Tech. I could not afford a G-Tech. When I was in college, I had a credit card. I finally could afford a G-Tech. So up until I started drawing, I was always using a G-Tech. So I don't use it anymore, but it's there as a reminder for me. This is a new pen. I know I can't talk about this guy. Bago pa ni na dawat. I have this red wooden thing. It's actually a massage pen.
Oh, okay.
I got this from Daiso by 99 pesos. You can do it. And then the rest are fountain pens. And then, this one is my pinaka useless na pen. It's an extender pen.
Oh,
The
okay.
tip is a Mickey Mouse pen, but it's extender pen. So I use this for when I'm presenting
Presentations.
or I want to mess with people.
Wait, you mentioned Calvin and Hobbes?
Okay, I mentioned Calvin and Hobbes because I have this brush pen. This is the Winsor & Newton number 1, size 1.
Off mic, we talked about Calvin and Hobbes, and it's
I have my
actually one of
collection here.
favorite.
Calvin and Hobbes is a major inspiration for me with my drawing art and my humor.
What's the name of the artist?
Bill Watterson.
Bill Watterson. There.
Bill Watterson. And Bill Watterson, for those who don't know, he only used this single brush from Winsor & Newton.
Really?
And he used it with India ink. See? So if you notice, yung brush is the same brush as here. The only difference is I have to keep dipping ang kaninga brush. Si Winsor, si Kuretake, it already has a built-in refillable ink. So
He did that for all of the colors also and everything?
No, the colors he used watercolor. I'm pretty sure he used a watercolor. I'll fix it later. But yeah, this other brush is for wash. This one is called a space pen. It's from Saddleback. It's branded from Saddleback, but it's actually the space pen. This is the pen that NASA developed for space because ang iyang ink is pressurized.
So you can just write even
You can write it on any angle.
like if I'm writing on a wall, it'll work.
Yep. If you're writing upside down, it'll work. If you're writing underwater with a water pen, I have this pen. No, they were carrying it from.
This is what I meant by gadget nerd.
It is a gadget. It's like I'm an art nerd. I mean,
No, to me, it's still a gadget. You get what I'm saying? Like, I can't say
electric.
I can't say thing nerd. Thing nerd just doesn't work.
This one, the last one I'll show you is this is like the Rolls Royce of mechanical pencils because this is the most I've ever spent on a mechanical. It's a Rotring 800. It is made of brass, as in heavy siya. And it uses a 2mm pencil. It's like,
Oh, it's a pencil.
yeah. But, grabe ka siya ka. Actually, heft to it. I love the build. So I liked it so much. My girlfriend got me another, so I have the set.
You're right. There's some weight here.
Yeah, diba? That thing is freaking heavy. That's made of brass, eh? Like solid brass.
When you said most expensive pen, and you gave it to me, I'm very reluctant to get it.
No, it's a pencil. This other one, the silver one, has a blue pencil.
Ah.
Now, if you were an art nerd or if you paid attention in cartoons before, people used to sketch using a blue pencil. Have you noticed that? There's a blue pencil and then they ink it. Because the blue manggod, it will not get scanned or Xerox. It's easy to erase.
Ah, okay.
And then back in the day when they had to protect their copyrights, they would draw in the blue pencil because they were corporate espionage. They would take film. You see, kids, back in the day, we use film. It will not develop sa film.
Mo ba?
Ang kani siya, that's non-photographic pencil. Literally, it says on the you cannot if you Xerox machine this, nothing will come out. So artists would use this to lay down the pencils. Then they would draw over it with their outlines. But then, diba, they have to Xerox it to make more copies. The blue will not come out.
I think I noticed that. Like, you have a video, you drew something.
Yeah, and I was using a blue pen.
You used the blue pen first.
Blue pencil,
and then
yeah.
I noticed you kind of then a dark something
Yeah.
went over it.
My process for drawing is I start with pencils first. I lay the foundation of it, which I never did. I can honestly say my first 3 books of Ethan Huber, I never used a pencil. I diretso GTech. So I wasted a lot of paper. So, but then when I was in Bouncing All, when I learned all these things, I got disciplined into using pencils. So my process is I use pencils and then I outline it with ink and brush and then color it with Copic markers. And that's it. That's really the process.
Yeah, but like I mentioned, I really enjoy seeing the drawings on Instagram. But we've also been talking, I think, for almost 2 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think we could keep going. And I haven't even, because I wanted to ask you about the books, the Heathen Humor, Melancholy Nut, ano ba?
Yeah,
But,
we can. It's really fast. I can talk about it.
Sure, go. Give it like
Sige.
a quick.
Are you tired? I'm not tired pa, actually.
No, but I actually have to go home.
Sige.
I have to make
Sige,
dinner.
how about this? Let me ano na lang. So right now, I have 3 ongoing projects. The Sunday sketch, which I upload every weekend. And
But you
then
didn't do that for October, no? Because you were doing
no, because I'm
October,
doing it every day. So a lot of stuff for ano. So, Melancholy Knot is another project of mine. I don't really know if I should call it a comic because it's not really a comic. It's not even a short story. It's an ongoing story, sure. But Melancholy, if you guys can check it out, it's at Melancholy Knot at Instagram. It came out from I Am Bry. I Am Bry is really just me expressing myself. And then because I kept getting my heart busted, emo. I Am Bry started getting darker.
Emo.
Yeah, it got a bit depressing in 2014. If you actually look at it, yeah, something happened, whatever. I won't name names, but it got darker to the point that it wasn't funny anymore. I Am Bry was made because I had all these crazy ideas in my head that I've been able to do it all there. But then when I ran out and I started to do all these sad quotes, and then I thought, you know what? This isn't I Am Bry anymore. That's how Melancholy Nut was born. I wanted to give his own space, an art project that's really just about that. So Melancholy Nut is a project of just me. All my emo gunk and shit from my head is there. And then what I did was, I created a character. His name is Kirby. He's an astronaut. And then his helper bot, K33FE, or Keith. And this is actually based on one of my good friends, Keith De La Cruz. Hi, Keith. So, Melancholy Nut is about that guy. And then it's just really about one-liners. And then at first, it was just about quotes. But then as I got into it, especially when I reached number 50, I switched to color. I realized that this was a project where I could go nuts with all the color palettes because this is a guy
He's in space.
Yeah, he's in space. He's traveling all sorts of worlds. So you can pretty much go nuts with the backgrounds and colors. So this is where I can go nuts with my color because, well, my Sunday sketches, because they come out the same time, Sunday sketches are basically, it's just me drawing for the sake of drawing or whatever I'm feeling that week. Melancholy Knot is consistently it's a healthy way for me to let this out, all these, sad things out.
I actually really enjoy the Melancholy Knot because it's like,
Hugot. It was Hugot before Hugot.
It's kind of, yeah, but that's not why I enjoy it. I feel like it's more I was trying to come up with an explanation for why I like it, and then I think it's like a portrait of an emotion, whatever it is. No, if it's a sad emotion, it's basically because it's mostly sad.
Yeah. I've been trying to make it uplifting, but I'm not hopeful, but yeah, you're right. It's sad, but that's the beauty of it, I guess.
Yeah.
There's truth to it. I'm really proud about that. Even though it's a fictional universe, a fictional story, at the end of the day, the emotion you feel is true.
No, but it's not always a sad emotion. I'm just saying it's a portrait of
The
a
emotion.
specific emotion in
Yeah.
that
Yeah, and then
drawing.
yeah,
So this drawing might be sad. This drawing might be joy. This drawing, but
yeah. I mean, aside from that, Melancholy Knot, there's actually a hidden Melancholy Knot no one's ever seen. Because now it's like it's number 100 plus. There's actually a number 0. What started it all was the girl, because the story of the only, like I always put this in the blurb, after a really terrible breakup, an astronaut and his helper droid explore the universe to one day move on. So the thing there is a girl. I've never drawn her. I've never posted it. There is a drawing. I gave it to someone. She's keeping it for me because I don't ever want to post it. And it's not related to that or whatever. But yeah, there's a girl to it. One of these days, I have been planning to write it out. What really is the story? I want to release a book for it. But right now, I'm good. At first, I thought I would write the text and then put the drawing. So there's an explanation per drawing. Now it's to the point that I don't really need to write anything. Just follow it. And then here's a tidbit for there. If you actually go through the Melancholy Knot, most often than not, he's looking to the left. Because,
really?
Yeah, he's always facing left. And my thing there was that when they broke up, in the middle of space, if you know your space, diba, in an object in motion stays in motion. Okay, diba? An object in motion stays in motion. Okay, yeah. So no, Newton's law. Come on, Newton's law.
Okay.
So imagine in the infinite. So basically, there were this couple. They were supposed to chart out the rest of the universe, but tumasan nagkasinabot, and they broke up in the middle of the universe, and they went separate directions. So if you know your science nerd, what gets like a stop, sige lag move. How far away are they now? So that's something to think about. Nag-break up mo.
So he's looking left because the girl's to the left.
The girl is on the right. He doesn't look back. Mo look back na siya sometimes. Di ba ka-notice ka kung sometimes mo look siya to right, but most often than not, he's looking to the left.
No, I have not noticed that. I will try to notice
I actually noticed that when I compiled it, like, I should make a story out of this. Okay, I have an explanation. So that's the thing. Space is not round. If this was Earth, one of these days mag-meet sila, di ba? Okay.
Yeah.
But this is space, and it's infinite.
There's no walls.
So an object in motion stays in motion.
I just listened to something about that. Like it's very, and I try to think about it. It's very hard to think of space having no limits, that it just goes on forever.
And
And then I realized it's a very difficult thing for a human to picture. Like I couldn't picture it.
Yeah.
It's like picturing a room without 4 walls.
Yeah. Scary. But yeah, and then from that, my other project, which the last one is the Hidden Humor. So Hidden Humor is really...
That's your first project.
The very first project, which I stopped and then revived it. So the book is with you. I recently reviewed the first 3 books that I released. So I released it in 2004, 2006, and I think 2008, the last one. But then I was never really happy with how it came out. So I had it rescanned, restored it. So I'm in the process of selling the book. So hopefully I can bring it out to the market.
That's your project now.
Yeah. But for those who want to follow it in Instagram, it's at Hidden Humor. the one you see now on Instagram, it's all digital. So when I got my iPad Pro last 2016, I had this, I really wasn't planning to revive it. But then, I had my iPad Pro and then I met Mishi and yeah, she made me remember how much fun it was. So that's why in my book, if you actually look at the first page, it says for Mishi, who made me remember. Because yeah, I mean, it was because of her that it was because of her that I revived it.
And then this is for me like an iconic
the
Calvin
Calvin Hobbes
remix.
That's my tribute to Calvin and Hobbes. So yeah, I mean, if you're a fan of Calvin and Hobbes, Dilbert, Pugad Baboy, or I know you will love this book. And if you want to follow where it is right now, because the one in Instagram, it's all full color and it's multiple panels now. So it's like the modern iteration of it. It's zanier than ever. Although I wish I was faster with it. The problem on good is I'm drawing it on the computer. It takes me longer compared to when I'm just drawing it black and white. So I've been pushing myself further and further with it.
And then I noticed like the characters in the beginning looked really different.
Yeah, because this one, the book you're holding now, it's in order, chronological order. The humor and the characters really solidify in the middle part and onwards. The first few ones, they're really, I'm still trying to find my art style.
And who these characters are.
Yeah, and who these characters are. Yeah, I mean, it's funny though. I've always found it funny that kids love this. Like, when the first book was being sold, my friends would lend it to their younger brothers or sisters, and they would love it. So I'm like, wow. So it was always and even now, my 9-year-old nephew, he always wanted a book from me because his parents lost the ones I gave them. So, so it's like, Dico, where's my copy? Like, I gave it to your parents. It's not my fault they didn't keep it. Anyway, so I gave him the current book, and yeah, he loves it. He loves the humor.
So this is gonna be your 6th.
Yes, I'm hoping my 6th book, and I can honestly say right now, this is the best one that I've ever done because it's a culmination of all. Because even though it's the same drawings from before, I restored it. The humor, I don't know, I'm still proud of it that the humor stands out even until now.
But I guess you also narrowed it down to...
I took out some strips that were very offensive.
Really?
Very, very offensive. Like, I can't believe I did that before. I'm like, wow. Like, even my girlfriend was like, wow, I can't believe you got away with that. I'm like, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that there isn't anything here that is, offensive or, man, okay, you have a copy. If you think it's gonna get me in trouble, let me know.
Okay.
so that's where it is now. I mean, actually, that's funny. The one you're holding now, this is like version 3. The version 1, there was one there. I didn't know that I wrote that there, but I don't want to say it out loud. It was really bad. So good thing I found it and fixed it.
So you took it out.
Yeah, this one right now, it's like almost 300 pages. This is really a lot. This is the thickest book I've ever done, and I'm really proud of how it came out. And
but no release date yet.
Not yet. I'm hoping before December if I could find a way. I mean, but right now my concern right now is really finding the proper printer for it, because the one you're holding now, it's by HDP printing. It's really good. The problem is it's expensive because it's digital printing, so it's not cost effective yet. It's good as a one-off. So I printed 10 because I wanted to use this as a proposal to other, but then I think they're not really keen on it because I'm in Cebu. So I'm going to do it on my own. I'll let you know, when I'm planning to sell it, because, I really do plan to sell this online, and then, which is what I usually do anyway. I don't know which avenue I can use in Cebu. I wish that I could ask Fully Booked Cebu to carry it for me, but then you have to go through Manila again. So I'm still figuring it out. And hopefully after this, because what I'm hoping for is once this is successful, then I can focus on publishing the Melancholy Knot, and then republishing the I Am Bryce. Because I really believe that if you were asked me before if I would do this, before I would say no. Now I would say yes, because the humor of people nowadays is more in line to me now. They're catching up because you can see all these crazy, like Cyanide and Happiness, Perry Bible Fellowship, all these webcomics. People, it's going mainstream because of Facebook. I was actually into these webcomics before they became cool. So I think the fact that Fully Booked is now carrying these kinds of comics show that there is hope for this kind of humor. Because the cool thing about hidden humor, which I'm really proud of, is like, if you didn't know I did it, you wouldn't know that this was done locally. You would expect this was done in and that's what I'm proud about the humor about this. I don't really know how I did that, because one of my problems with a lot of local comics is like they're too local. So I wanted to veer away from that. And yeah, I mean, hopefully this will pick up. And if you guys are interested, just go to my Instagram, check it out. The Hidden Humor, at Hidden Humor.
At Hidden Humor.
Yeah, it updates every Wednesdays. Melancholy Knot updates every Sunday. The Sunday sketch is also every Sunday. So, and then if you want every day, it's the I Am Bry. I do that every day. So I have a full scale. Yeah.
Now.
Yeah, bay. 9 years running actually. I was
I
surprised.
saw something like there was something like 2,000 posts or something.
Yeah. Damn.
2,000 I Am Bry.
I have folders there, bay. What I do, good, every time it reaches 300 strips, I separate it na. And then that's year 1, year 2. It's 300 because I don't do it on the weekends. So more or less 300 every year. It's actually not 300. It's actually 52 times 2, 300. Mga 265. Diba, a year. But I go for every 300. I already have 8 folders, so 8 years na siya. So yeah, I Am Bry is if you want just random humor. Yeah,
so IamBry.com.
Yeah, IamBry.com. It's still there. Or you can follow me in Facebook, but it's better in There's a Facebook page for Hidden Humor and Melancholy Knot. You can also check it out. So
okay, wait. I'm going to put everything in the show notes. So where can people find you? So there's...
Okay, if you really want to find, like, my personal account, it's at Bry_O in Instagram. Wait, not by underscore. I always forget.
I'll find it. I'll put it in the show notes.
Bry_O. For Hidden Humor, it's at Hidden Humor. And then for Melancholy Knot, it's at Melancholy Knot. So, yeah, I made all those 3 in Instagram, so you can just go through it. I would suggest if you're first time for Melancholy Knot, I would go to the very first post at the very start where it was still in black and white.
Treat it like a...
Yeah, it's an ongoing story. Yeah, because there's a number to it. I think, wait, let me check now. What number is it now?
And then I Am Bry on IamBry.com.
Yeah. Melancholy is 134. Wow. Oh, here's the thing about Melancholy Knot. It actually stopped from 2016 to middle of 2017. It stopped for a year. Why was that? Because she's gonna hate that I said it. I met my girlfriend June 2016. So because we were dating, I didn't want although she loved it because that's one of the reasons I fell in love with her was because she was really into what I was doing.
Yeah.
But then I didn't want to post Melancholy Knot we were dating. Okay? Depressing guy. Kasi kami pala niyang depressing. So I stopped it for a year. And then funny enough was that she told me she missed it. So I said, okay, I'm gonna redo this. But then promised ka na ako nga whatever I post, even if it's for a girl, you won't take it against me because it's just that. So she agreed to it. That's why it got revived. And then the new one now, the new iteration now it's now bigger and more colorful than ever. The one before Magod, it was really small. So yeah, that's where Melancholy Knot is now. Yeah. So yeah, if you give it and then actually, you know what I've been always wanted to do with it was I wanted to put a playlist beside it. You know what I mean? Like if actually songs, because it's really influenced by those songs. But it's really fun. Like I had this idea.
Maybe
like
you should put the song name on the caption.
I did, but then I thought, basig puro ni Death Cab.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, okay, Death Cab you go. I mean, I come from that.
I love Death Cab.
Death Cab or Dashboard. Mga emo stuff na taan eh. So that was something I was planning to do for like an exhibit or the book. Like I had this idea for an exhibit. Like it would be posted in order, and then you would have an iPod with the music.
You could do that.
Yeah, I am planning. I did. I tried to pitch the idea to Cube, but they haven't gone back to me. I'll follow it up again. But that's something to do. I mean, that would be funny. That would be fun to do. Like, it's a musical. Like, I will make you feel really bad after this. You're gonna need a beer after this. So I was thinking like, when you enter, you're given, you can borrow an iPod with the headphones. When you get out, you have a choice of a hot tea or a beer.
I go to that. I go to that.
You went through it, you get a beer. If you're still smiling after it, dude, get a beer. Good for you. You get a tea.
I would go to that exhibit. Cube, if you are listening.
Yeah.
If you've made it this far.
You get a beer.
Bri, it's been a pleasure.
All right, man.
Anything you want to add?
Nah, that's basically it. I mean, yeah, I mean, oh, well, okay. Last thing na lang is, why I do all these drawings. My advice for designers is, and even workers, you need a hobby. You need an outlet. This is why 50% of my time is work. 50% of my time is also drawing. So how have I been able to do this since 2012? It's really because it's an outlet for me. It's healthy. I mentioned that I burned out in Camp Cebu 2009 to 2012 because I had no outlet. My only outlet was drinking, and that's not an outlet. That's
not a healthy outlet.
No, that's called the problem.
Yeah.
So I would advise artists, designers, as much as you can, get a hobby. It doesn't have to be an artistic hobby. You don't have to draw or sing or whatever. Anything that keeps your mind, to forget work for a while. And I'm sorry to say, but, drugs or drinks do not count. Maybe a day at the beach, great. But, for the end of the day, try to make something fun or, even just play basketball or go for a jog. It's really helpful for us to keep our brains, focused on something else other than work. So I've always been proud of advocating this because every time I give a talk to students or whatever about what it's like to be a freelancer, I always stress the point that you need to have a life outside your work. Because not only will it help you mentally, I mean, physically speaking, it will also help you. So, that's my last.
And it'll help you make better work.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
Because you have different perspectives.
Yes.
No?
Yeah. But, I mean, for me, it helped a lot. I mean, all these colors, I mean, there was a time I didn't like to use color, but because of this, I'm now more flexible than ever in terms of.
Oh, I'm sure it opened up your world in that sense.
Yeah, but then, the igo na yung printer nga di kaya ang color, I'm like, all right, fine. Yeah, anyway. But yeah, that's it. I mean, go out there, go create, but don't forget to take care of yourself, basically.
Okay, bro. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Thank you.
The fun thing about doing the podcast is I get an opportunity to hang out with old friends. And I don't think Brian and I ever really hung out before. So it was good to sit down, have a coffee, and a fun chat with a dude. It was a fun conversation. Bri, thanks for having me over. Thanks for the coffee. Thanks for your time and being a very generous guest. And also thanks to Degree 9 Coffee for sponsoring the episode. The music from this podcast is Piano March by Audionautics. It's almost Christmas. We release an episode every Tuesday. And then I realized that Christmas and New Year's is on a Tuesday. We're releasing episodes on Christmas and New Year's. And we're going to have a very, very, very special guest. You're going to find out who she is in the next episode of 032 Conversations. Wait, don't stop listening yet. If you like what we're doing, if you think what we're doing is interesting and you want to hear more long-form interviews with interesting people, please support the show. There's 4 ways to support the show. First way is you can become a Patreon subscriber. Head on over to patreon.com/032. Second way is you can buy 032 merchandise. You can head on over to the online store at assembly.032.com or visit any of our stockists. We're in Hip Street in Ayala Center, Cebu, American Boulevard in SM City, Cebu, or Republic in Manila Town Center. You can get 032 merchandise there. The third way to support the show is share this episode on social media, or you can leave a rate. The fourth way is leave a rating on iTunes. That way you can help us get more listeners. And the more listeners we get, the more episodes we get to do, the better episodes we get to do, the more interesting, creative people we can get on the show. I'll see you next Tuesday for the Christmas episode. Ho, ho, ho. Yeah. Ho ho ho. I think I'll end with ho ho ho. Ho ho ho.